Welcome to Zel-Theory. It is your host, Zelmae, and I'm joined with an amazing woman, I believe, and someone I think will give us a look into the Red Pill community. I am not used to the Red Pill community. I'm not used to most communities. I really just got on the internet in like 2018 while my father was sick. For people that watch the show, y'all know this, but then I started getting on the internet. Then I got on Twitch, and now I get on here, and now I'm introduced to this new place. So I'm not an expert in it, but she's gonna walk us through it because I find some stuff maybe toxic, but maybe she knows and she can quell some of my fears. But first, we gotta do something. I'm gonna let her introduce herself. Then I gotta do something. Of course, I got this Black History Month. I gotta show love to our people. How are you
Okay.
today, Ruby?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. So what do you want to know? Obviously, I'm classic Ruby. Everyone in the chat currently that has said something in the last 10 seconds knows me. So, that's good. But yeah, no, actually, I've been here for a good long time. Um, I think, like most people, there's a reason I ended up in this space. So I actually ended up in this space because of my own illness, and which kind of pulled me out of my schooling. And I was bored to tears and needed somewhere I could think. And so this is actually, it's kind of like on my why do I support this space topic, but it's the reason why I came into this space is because when I got to this space, it was Manosphere 2.0, and facts and research and proof and facts over feelings, all of that was really, really important at the time. And so it's like, oh, this space is like a space after my own heart, right? And they actually really valued my opinion because I came with facts, I came with research, I came with statistics, not just my own feelings and whatever. And I have actually been speaking about this type of stuff mostly in the anti-feminism, anti-SJW arena on my own website, classicruby.com, since 2007 or maybe 2008. It's been a really long time, long before I found YouTube. And I have been fighting for things like men's rights and especially when it comes to child custody and stuff like that for a very long time, just like on a personal front. So these were all issues that kind of, were near and dear to my heart and touched my soul. And so I'm still here talking about all of these issues and, talking to young women, because that's something I actually do professionally and whatever, speak to young women, and speak to even older women, because there's a lot of pressure from feminism and from third and fourth wave feminism for women to be a certain way and to have to live up to these ideals and expectations that are kind of, all research has proven, are literally anti the way women were evolved to be. And so I speak to women, say, hey, listen, just because you can you can kind of override your evolutionary programming doesn't mean you should. And that, there are balances here, and that, being a traditionally minded woman, a good woman, valuing, loving, and respecting men, these are all good things. And, who cares what they're trying to sell you, because they're trying to sell you basically a bunch of mess. So that's basically why I'm here in a nutshell.
Let's go. She basically answered the first question, so we got to shout out to Ruby. But like I said, I don't know much about the Red Pill space. I've been a little more into it. Shout out to BMT for anybody that don't know. My guy BMT kind of been in my thoughts. Shout out to my guy. He be on this channel sometime because this channel is mostly. I know it probably on my channel probably won't get views. They like my movie reviews and stuff like that. But I personally like to get into deeper concepts on everything and how people think, because that's more what I want to do. So I wanted to interview Ruben because I like she's intriguing. She doesn't fit narratives I see most of the time when I see things. So I like this is intriguing. I want to have this conversation one on one with her because a lot of times I find panels are more it's entertaining, but at the other thing. I see somebody have a birthday in chat. Happy birthday or happy late birthday. But I normally see spaces, and most of the time it's just a lot of nonsense, especially with the people who've taken over the space. I know Ruby doesn't support those people, so that we're going to get into that too later on in the show. But
Mhm.
before we start and I ask her more questions, I want to give this shout out. I hope y'all can see this. But this is a list of African American inventors. And why do I want to show this list to everybody? Why? Because oftentimes black people history, African American history, is always presented as getting beat down. Always the victim in a way. Martin Luther King, amazing man. I know no doubt about it. I don't want to give no discredit to it. But often the history of African American is set on that, and that's what you were mostly taught in school. But did you know that the black man made an air conditioning unit? Did y'all see this? I don't know if y'all can see it, but it's Frederick M. Jones in 1949. You see the almanac, black man made an almanac. You see rolling pin, you see stethoscope, you see the traffic light, you see ice cream, you see potato chips, you see the guitar, you see the golf tee, you see the fire extinguisher, you see the elevator, and you see all these different things that African American people in history, which you don't really hear about, has provided to America. So a lot of times when I hear people say we divesting from America or this culture, you are literally saying that they won and that they do not present our history well, and that we just need to associate with them. Which I think Ruby agreed with that idea. But so I just want everybody to know in chat that we are amazing people. I just always got to do this Black History Month. I always got to do that.
Well, I think you missed something though. See now, classicruby.com, I cover a lot of things over there. And so one of the things that I've covered over the years is the fact that, for example, history in and of itself is incredibly whitewashed. So what bitter truth have you not seen me cammed up? I'm sorry, I should stop reading the chat because like I said, I know everyone in this chat room. Like, seriously, Ruby on cam? My realm has. I'm cammed up on my own channel since 2017. What did you miss? Anyway, sorry, but yeah, what I wanted to say is this: is that so? For example, it was a black man who, in essence, facilitated the light bulb in such a way that we use them on a day-to-day basis, right? As in to get that filament that's in the bulb that doesn't
Louis
burn
Howard,
out.
I want to do a movie on him. I'm doing a
Yeah,
movie on him. That's my
that's what
goal.
I'm saying, right? We don't or the contributions of black men or black women made to the telephone, to the internet, to the computer. So even when there's something in history that it's like, okay, we didn't invent all on our own, we are often integral to massive parts of the reason why society is the way it is now and as advanced as it is. We'll only talk about things that we know, hey, a black person got a patent on, or was respected to, everyone says for sure they invented that all on their own. But I find that it's like, it's terrible that all of our contributions that we either invented or were huge contributors, especially I'll say in the 17, 16, 15, 1800s, in that era. It's absolutely a travesty that history is so whitewashed that we don't even understand that under threat of death almost, right? If you think about it, because we weren't allowed to research, we weren't allowed to know how to read, we weren't allowed to know how to do math, we weren't allowed to know how to do all these things while slavery was a thing. And yet, despite that threat, you had black people inventing amazing things and making sure that, society was going along this path that now we have all of this amazing stuff and we don't get any credit for it. So I like to just throw it in there.
Yes, Louis Howard Latimer. She talking about did the blood. I want to do a movie on him. That's been my goal, and he helped Alexander Graham Bell with the telephone. He also basically invented the air cooler, which was the original air conditioner, which was ended up being made by a black person instead anyway. But they kind of you don't know it. Super Soaker, you put that with somebody else. Potato chips. Most people think the Irish made potato chips. No, black people did. Ice cream scoop, a lot of different stuff that we help invent. And I always want people to know that you don't have our history has shown that most of it is like rappers, everything else. And I'm like, no, no, we have a history. You can be an inventor. That's like our one skill that black people always had that we didn't really acknowledge in our even in our struggles, which sometimes I do hate that the victimhood is often given as a
Mm-hmm.
way, which I'm often afraid of sometimes of victimhood because oftentimes, even though some of it is true, I explained in a video about how what is um, like stereotypes and how that affects with white supremacy in the workplace and why is it maybe not even noticeable because, like I said, conditioning and everything. So we want to go over that. But this interview is about Ruby, so we're gonna get to her. Even though I just have to always have to give some factual stuff about the broom was on here too, all this stuff. So I just have to get factual information. I want to know. I want us to know that we better than what people portray us as. So
Mm-hmm.
so
Right.
oftentimes, Ruby, she already told us how did you get into the Manosphere and Red Pill space.
Mm-hmm.
But oftentimes I find people find their spaces because of some experience through their life, and sometimes they find their group, their herd, and multiple things because they experienced something in their childhood, early work experience, early life that probably led them to be able to cohabitate with people in this environment, such as some people. Oftentimes, you see that when abuse happens, you see more women with abuse tend to go feminist in a way. They tend to be like all men are bad. You also see people in the red pill space where you see in the new red pill space where men, oftentimes who get withdrawn from women, oftentimes seem to not like the same women as much because of past experience. So I want to know, Ruby, have you had? Do you think you have had any experience in your life that maybe shaped that, or can you tell us anything about that you think would be important to that we need to know about classic Ruby and how she found red pill and why she found it so interesting?
Well, see, that's the thing. Long before I had ever heard of Red Pill or the Manosphere or anything, I had already been writing and complaining about third and fourth wave feminism specifically, and the nonsense that it was selling to young women, and the distraction tactics that it was using. Like, look at the shiny bird over here, without people recognizing, for example, that the Equal Rights Amendment, for example, in America was never ratified. That means all equal rights are a favor, right? They're not, or they're a privilege that you currently have. They're not a right. They're not. It's never been ratified. I luckily live in a country where equal rights is a ratified amendment, as in we, as women, as people of color, whatever it is, right? Our rights are guaranteed. They're written into our constitutions, so to say. But a lot of people don't realize that. And so you give them a bunch of stupid shiny stuff over here to be following, and then they don't realize, oh wait, all the important stuff, wait, we forgot to look into the important stuff. Oh wait, my bad, right? And so, like, for 20 something years in Canada, for 20 something years, it has been legal for women to be topless in public, like no bra, no nothing, showing their nipples and all in public. I would love someone to find a place in Canada where it's popular for women to be topless. There's just not. It just doesn't happen. Do you know why? Because feminism is fighting for things that women don't want. They don't want them. They don't need them. They don't use them. You want equal rights. You want the equal right to show your nipples. And then when you get it, you know what? A few teenagers walked around for a couple of years, like in summer when no one could see them, like in parks and stuff, to just be cool and do it. But generally, no one wants that, right? Because women see this as a private thing. They don't want to show the whole world. So feminism has wasted so many resources, so much this, so much that, to do what? To give women something that they what? Don't want, right? And then we got it here 20 years. Okay, great. Well, now feminism is fighting for it in America 5 years ago. And let's have that huge fight. And let's fight Facebook. And let's fight this. And let's, where is the fighting for actually important things for women, or just for equal rights? And what does equal really mean? Why aren't we fighting? And this is a huge thing for me. Why aren't we fighting for men's rights when it comes to them having custody, for them being parents? Why aren't we fighting for the message that, hey, listen, we're saying that women are overloaded and it's not fair that they're just the housewives and blah, blah, blah? Then why aren't we fighting for men to have the equal access, equal rights, equal custody to their children, right? Because that would allow women to not be just like labored down with their children and with the housework and blah 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 if men had rights. But women don't want that. Feminism doesn't want that. They want to fight against men's rights to their own children, and then also fight against women needing to be stay-at-home moms. So which is it? You have to pick a struggle, but feminism doesn't like to pick a struggle. And feminism doesn't mind that everything, like, men lose everything as long as women gain everything. And so to me, that in and of itself has nothing to do with equity, has nothing to do with equality. And it was a problem that I have always had. Now, as a psychologist, right, because my education is in psychology, neuroscience, and behavior, and I'm an evolutionary psychologist. That's where my main focus is. Um, a lot of what I was learning in school was already kind of explaining what I was seeing in society, and was explaining why it is that we're pushing these discrepancies and we're not focusing on what's really important, and so on and so forth. And so again, for me, being suddenly pulled out of school in the middle of my labs when I was doing research, which was important. It was hard. It was hard to be sitting there fighting my medical issues and with all this knowledge and all this wisdom and all this research and no one to share it with. And it was literally like accidentally, like I literally stumbled into it. I stumbled into a space I didn't even know existed. I stumbled into a movement I didn't know existed. Red pill ideology was the closest thing to what I could believe and support and respect. And so I started supporting pure ideology, and therefore I supported content creators who were of like minds. I was really hoping back then for a place for more women to be saying something that I could, gung ho believe and support, and that it just wasn't there back then at all. Just was not.
So so the so I was thinking about this as you were speaking. I was thinking about you often say feminist. I hear modern woman. I see a bunch of different things. I see woke in chat. By the way, I hate the word woke. Woke is supposed to be meaning you have an awakening, but that word was taken over by the people that seem to take over a lot of our stuff and don't tell us our history, and then became something completely different. Because I know growing up all through the 90s and 2000s that woke mean that you had a third eye and you was awoken to a truth. So which basically was what people are saying red pill mean. So somehow it then got switched and flipped, and things are just being used as distraction. Which, me coming from politics, things are often used as distractions. Things are often used as ways to get you not to look at them. Usually money wise, people usually harbor money, do grants, and do a bunch of different things to with their friends to get on into this space of I'm trying to manipulate. But you bring up something that you said they do bring up pointless laws. It's kind of like I often been arguing lately that a lot of this stuff is just like stupid ad lib stuff that doesn't have to be added to the conversation, which could have a strong point. Yeah, so woke into a random fact. That is what woke is supposed to mean, but it's then turned into something completely different now. But it's Ruby, I wanna is there anything you do like about feminism? In a way. Is there anything you like about it? Anything that you felt like they had strong points? That, as you said, oftentimes it's distracted. It is distracted. You have this little bell. But are there stronger points in which you wish they fought for? Like I can Ruby could be a feminist if you fought for this and that. Because I know you talked about. I'm gonna let you speak. I know you talked about the fact that in America it is not a gratified right. It is more of a like I gave this to you and it can be taken away.
Mm-hmm. At any
So that's
time.
something you see feminism could fight because that is a space that they said they want to fight in for absolute equal right.
Well, yeah, I think American and feminists, depending on where you are in the world, feminism should be focusing on a different thing. In and of itself, I objected to the term feminism to begin with. To me, there was no way that they created a movement that was about equality for everybody and that was going to fight for equality for everybody, but let's call it feminism. I've always objected to that in general. It always seemed to me as though where feminism, third and fourth wave feminism went was where it was going to go. It seemed absolutely necessary because if you name something meninism, right? There was no way that that's fighting for the to disadvantage men while simultaneously advantaging another group. That would just never be what the argument was. So, do I think that the first couple waves of feminism, which were not called feminine, I mean, the suffrage movement or whatever, that wasn't even called feminism. But do I think the first few waves, a couple waves of feminism were absolutely necessary and key? Absolutely. Until 1984, it was legal to beat and R word your wife. Literally until 1984. Is that a problem? Absolutely. Did that absolutely need to be changed? Absolutely. Amber Rose came and bastardized something that us here in Toronto did that was an important thing because up until the slut walk, the real one, not what Amber Rose did and bastardized afterwards, but what was being done, and this was being done by feminism, right? It's just earlier iterations of it, was women were being blamed for being attacked. It's the only crime in the world that people get blamed for being attacked, for being a victim of a crime. And so what ended up happening was feminism came together and said, okay, let's call it the slut walk, and just because we're wearing a short skirt, just because I'm showing a little cleavage and whatever. So you want to call us sluts basically, and never believe us, and try to blame us for our own victimization. That's not cool. We can warn women all we want, but at the end of the day, we've got to make this a crime, and then we've got to actually prosecute it. And so that was, I think, something that was really important that was being done. But again, that isn't what feminism, third and fourth wave feminism, is not really focusing on things like that. I mean, it's so much so that third and fourth wave feminism is speaking on things like the gender wage gap and stuff like that, as though things are the same as they were back in the early 90s, which they're not, right? So, but it's like, they're, again, it's a sparkly thing over here. It's so easy to say, come on, women are only making 70 cents on the dollar, and women are going to get really outraged by that, even though that is no longer the case. It was at one point, but the work was done. But you know what we're going to do? We're not going to focus on anything that's really important or really difficult. Again, we're going to focus on the sparkly things over here, right? And so to me, that, I think that's what the problem is. This is why in general, though, it's hard to support any movement, because all movements get corrupted, including RedPill, including the Manosphere. They all get corrupted, right? And so that's why when I say I support pure red pill ideology, 100% pure red pill ideology, I support it all day, right? But have many people corrupted it? Absolutely, right? Just like that's what fourth wave feminism is, feminism corrupted. But I just say, if you named it feminism, you knew it was going to be corrupted in this way eventually. That's just what it comes down to.
So so when you say it's called feminism, and then it's called manosphere, it's kind of on the same wavelength as what you're saying. Like feminism, if it's called that, it's different. Or are you saying that manosphere is an objection to feminism?
The manosphere is a response to feminism, and it's a response to a series of movements and concerted efforts that were all about not just, making things more equal for women, right? But it was like, even if it was at the detriment to men, that's a problem. So when you have the men's rights activists and stuff like that all coming together in one area, so that way men have a place they can go to, so they can get information, they can get resources, even for things like homelessness, and even for things like abuse within relationships, for help with custody, because again, the state will give moms a lawyer to fight these custody battles, but don't give one to the dad, right? So I mean, at the end of the day, was a space like the Manosphere absolutely needed? Yes, and it was needed because it's a response to where third and fourth wave feminism was going, and men needed a resource, and they needed a place. Part of it, yeah, did they need a place to vent? Did they need a place of like minds? Did some of them, in this case, need just a place that was resources or education, or honestly, let's be real, fathers that they could find, because there's none inside the households, that weren't, some dude on the street that, just wants them to sell on the block, right? So, I mean, the manosphere ended up becoming a lot of different things, especially the Black manosphere, right? It was a resource that was absolutely needed for the men, because it wasn't acceptable for these resources to be out there to combat feminism. If you're trying to combat feminism, it's because, well, you're a misogynist, you hate women, you're just trying to attack women, you just want to shut down women's rights, so on and so forth. So where else were they going to do this? Where else were they going to talk about their own rights or their own gripes with things, or help support each other to just assert basic rights like the rights over their children, custody, to be able to fight against really unfair things that were going on with child support, so on and so forth, right? So,
But when you say that, the argument when I talk to feminists is the exact same argument before that. We wanted a safe to, we wanted a space to complain, we wanted a space to talk, we wanted a space to do these things, and we didn't want men in it. We wanted a space where we can vent, we can try to create a difference, we can come together, we can have a group together where we form and have and do what we want. We want to be able to say these things and vent and yell and say all these things that's bothering us, which I don't mind spaces like that. But the problem I have with both spaces, and which I find, is that all these spaces start becoming more of an echo chamber, and that's my biggest problem. which leads to easier. It's way easier to corrupt. I have a video on that's gonna come out on Andrew Tate, who some has taken the mantle of basically the leader because he became the most popular. And the video is not even going to be about his case that he's doing. It's going to be about how his constant thing is finding young men or desperate men and manipulating them to give him money. That's the one thing he consistently did. Whether it was the cam girl site when he admitted he was broke and came up
Mhm.
with it, it's the same type of man he goes after now. Men that don't understand, and he gives this advice, which for most people, I'm gonna say this: a lot of people nowadays I've seen in this space don't give good advice. But Andrew Tate gives actual advice that could work, but you have to be of a certain status and thing. And it does work when you see him talk about certain things. Mostly it will not relate to most of you. Most of you do not have enough money to be able to pull this stuff off or any of that. I got my guy Beta in here. My guy Beta. He's a progressive person, by the way, so it's very interesting. But I'm gonna go to his comment in a
I told
minute.
you I consider myself a progressive. If I had to label myself somewhere
What
in the
makes you
middle, it
interesting?
would be progressive. I am a leftist. For all that, everything that I speak about is anti-leftism. I am a leftist. So just so we're all clear, everyone knows that. They know that I'm very far left on certain topics. Just feminism isn't really one of them.
We're gonna get to his question. I'm gonna let you respond to Beta's question because it is a very interesting concept. But my thing is, I feel like all this things and all these spaces that we go in often becomes this echo chamber and this trap of ideas that we often don't want to fight against. We often don't want to fight against these ideas, and people, from what I see, they hate being argued with. They will make up stupid narratives just to fight, and this from every side, just to fight what you're saying and not be like, okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that correctness. I'll give you what
Mm-hmm.
you're saying. I do agree. A lot of times we do come up with you overdo it with things that don't matter compared to things that do. And we see some more people that say they're progressive. But I want to let Ruby answer Beta's question because she did say this, and I was going to ask her about this, but Beta says, so does the concept of intersectionality deserve
Intersectionality.
no merit because of the attachment to the fourth wave of feminism?
I think that there's a difference between something that is used as a tool to research and better understand concepts so that way maybe for example if you work within policy that you would have a better grasp and a firmer understanding of what things are coming to play and what maybe you could do better when making another policy or a better policy or a better law, something like that. I think there's a very big difference between that and what the intersectional feminist of today attempts to do with intersectionalism, which first of all is a problem in and of itself because most people only at best understand about a quarter of what they spew out on a regular basis to support their viewpoint about something, right? So for example, I'm an evolutionary psychologist and there's a few people out there in the spaces, right, whether we're on feminism side or in the manosphere, who have learned three things about evolutionary psychology, and then what they do is they spew it out and then they pretend that it just supports everything that they believe because someone that is on their side taught them something and then labeled it evolutionary psychology, right? The same thing is happening with intersectional feminism, right? So it's like if you want to say, for example, you know what? Listen, women absolutely, absolutely lack accountability in this day and age. If you want to say that, right, there's going to be someone who's going to spit intersectionality at you, right? And it's like, okay, but does that remove personal responsibility, onus, or accountability? Because if it doesn't, then it doesn't matter. This is what it comes down to, right? We can all point all these fingers. It's the pain and blame Olympic Games all day where we can point fingers and try to blame something for why we are where we are and why we do the things we do and why we've made the mistakes that we've made and so on over and over and over again. We can do that forever. I could do that. Trust me. Have I gone through things in life that I wish to God weren't? I had no accountability over. I could just blame everybody but me. Absolutely. right? But at the end, I could blame intersectional feminism easily explains it because with the intersection of me being black and female and also first generation immigrant. Oh my God! Well, look at all of these disadvantages I'm under. Like that's what intersectional feminism is being used as, and I don't think that that's what it should be. I think it should be a study of understanding where people live at all of these intersections, what the influences or disadvantages or whatever could be, but again on like a policy level. And again, no one wants to do it when it comes to men because we're pretending like black and male is not an intersection that is just as important and just as disadvantageous as black and female. So I'm just saying.
Oftentimes, I find I don't know if it's just a women thing or just a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think I find a lot of people don't take accountability for their actions a lot of times.
Facts.
I'm just not
Absolutely.
men, not just women. I'm not even doing that. Like, no, I'm just saying in general. I've seen wealthy white men go out there and threaten to. He from my high school. Threatened to blow up a bank. And his dad's
Mm-hmm.
like a senator. He told him, and then they put him in jail. Like, yo, this ain't fair. I'm like, bro, you try to blow up a bank. You know who my family is? I didn't mean to. I was on drugs. I'm like, that's
Mm-hmm.
still you still have to take accountability for what you did.
Yeah, that's
You
called
still have
affluenza, by the way. There's a whole thing now. It's called affluenza. So rich white men don't have to take accountability for anything. But I agree with you. Here's the thing. My co-host, just asked Shark. She's in the chat. And so I know you also know Melody. She's my co-host now. But me and Shark were co-hosts for years. And before that, I met her on BGS for Women, and she was like the kind of the woman leader there. And then she was doing her own channel, and I was supporting. I was her co-host on that, right? And so you can ask Shark. We call out ain't shitness, okay, and lacking accountability in both genders. We call that out on both sides. And when we see men who are lacking accountability, who are lacking that ability to just say, hey, no, we call it out. Don't get it twisted. But the difference I find, at least, and maybe that difference is less prominent than it was 7 years ago, but the difference used to be that if you called a man out and said, yo, y'all need to stop doing this, y'all need to stop, if you don't want all the baby mama drama, stop shooting up the club, right? And men would say, true, you're right, we should really stop doing that, right? And then, but if you say the exact opposite, you say it to women, you say, listen, if you don't want the baby daddy drama, stop letting them shoot up the club. Yeah, but you know what? You know what these men do? They don't even take any accountability because they know the times that they say, yeah, baby, it's okay. You don't have to put on the condom. It's okay. They know all the times that they're accountable for as well, but they're just going to put it off on the men. It's not their fault. They're not the last line of defense. It has nothing to do with them. And so ultimately, when you have the argument of accountability, which I do call out on both genders for the record, right? But where the place that I tend to get the pushback from is from defending women. Women, whether it's women defending women or men defending women, everyone defends women and defends their and all of these movements, whether it's intersectional feminism, fourth wave feminism, whatever it is, all of these movements are there to take accountability away from women and to put extra accountability on men. And it's like, dude, that's not going to get us anywhere. It's not helpful at all. It's 100% not helping women. It's not giving women good outcomes at the end of the day, and it's not giving women good, like, mental, emotional, sexual, physical health. It's just not. It's overall incredibly harmful to women.
shout out to Beta. He says I hear that.
Mhm.
But I've actually found the opposite. So I don't know if it's like when men speak to women versus when men speak to men, or is it when women speak to women? I often find when I told my friends, I like, listen, she even dated family. I'm like, listen, you date the same dude all the time. That's your fault. She's like, you know what? You right. You didn't have to say it me, Trevor, but you right. And then she went on to date someone different, and she's been happily married for 7 years now. So shout out to her for actually trying to do something different. When I tell men that, they get upset, like, why are you trying to tell me what to do? So it might be an opposite gender thing, which could be very much true. And it could be a area. We all know sociology, that environment versus environment and all that stuff also attribute to that? Beta has another question. So that to ask, is there any feminist theory you would recommend to learn to help unpack for anyone who is trying to better their understanding of a concept?
No. Uh, there, no, I wouldn't. But I would. I suggest that all Black women actually learn, not from some random like YouTube stream or whatever, but go learn what womanism actually is, what the advent of womanism was, and what it was actually for. Because I went and I looked that up. Because I had never really heard of it before until I got into these spaces around 2017. And so to hear about womanism and whatever, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I looked it up. And what I realized is that womanists, right? So this is Black feminism, right? Black feminists broke off from feminism because they said, listen, we're not white women. Our beef is not with our men. Our oppressor is not our men. And so, in and of itself, while we might have some issues that we need to fight and band together with other women because it's a woman's issue, at the end of the day, there's also a lot of issues we've got to band together with our brothers and fight because it's a Black issue. And so that's what womanism was. Womanism was a departure from feminism because they recognized that what white women were fighting for and what Black women were fighting for were necessarily different, because in and of itself everyone's oppressor was the white man, and including the white woman's, right? But we didn't have beef with our men, and we needed to recognize that and create a movement that was not beefing with our men. And then somehow or another, between then and now, things got all confused. And so now we're making our men our enemy, and our men we're warring against, we're fighting against, we're throwing into the mud and the dirt and the dust, right? We're even supporting the men who feminism was enacted to fight against. We are supporting those men because we're saying, hey, listen, go find yourself your white king girlfriend. Oh yeah, because these Black dudes, they be dusty. Go support your Black. You go support your white king. And it's like, wait, hold on. Wait, so you have no idea what womanism is? While you call yourself a womanist, you have no idea what womanism is, why it started, what it was for, what its function was, right? And I think this is my problem in and of itself, is a lot of people these days on social media just run their mouths a lot. They hear three words, they associate it with something, sounds good to them. Now they just know, and they're going to run buck wild and free with it, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. So in general, why don't you just learn about overall, just learn about it. Just learn about these things. Go look it up instead of just letting some idiot on YouTube tell you. Go look it up, because the books, the all these articles that really existed, 100 years, they still exist. Go look it up. That's what I would suggest.
By the way, the reason I'm people, some people might be upset I'm not like contradicting. I want her to this because I don't know if everybody understand the concept of what I'm doing right now. I want to show y'all how intelligent Ruby is and why I think she should break off and create her own thing. But don't worry, we're gonna get to that. We got a little time. We're gonna get to that. We ain't got there yet. I just wanted her to showcase this.
Oh, Carolyn Lowe's here. Char Willie, Vonda, Sir Badayu. There's a lot of people. I haven't seen some of y'all in a really long time. What is up, y'all? Exiled one. There's a lot of people up in this chat
Create
room.
your
I
own
don't know where
movement.
they came from, but hi, y'all.
Create your own movement. But I'm gonna go over a lot of reasons why I think that is the thing. Yeah. Shout out to, by the way, I know Bitter Truth Show said he's gonna stop talking. No, just continue what you're doing, Chad. Just like I said, I want Ruby just to go because I think she can actually make a difference. But I got a lot of arguments why. But that's coming later. That's coming later. We're gonna get to
Okay,
that.
okay. That's fair.
We're gonna get to that. We're talking about the fifth year in a row.
Oh, Mr. DJ Music was here. He's our producer. So me and Shar also had a radio show going for a while. Well, we do like a season. So I guess the next season would be coming up soon if we're going to do another season of our radio show. And Mr. DJ Music is our producer for that because he owns a radio station. So yeah, no, I mean, I do stuff outside of the Manosphere. It's not like it's the only thing I do, but
Yeah, my audience probably outside of Beta, they probably not in. They like, hey, listen, Bel Air coming out February 26th. I need that review coming. So,
oh, is it
but this,
really?
yeah,
Oh,
I am a, I,
that.
I do more entertainment because a lot of times like I don't find a lot of people interested. But like I said, to the third, let's go to my third question. We got to the third question now.
Mhm.
When you talk about modern women, how do you, how would you suggest we fix that? we fixed it's nature versus nurture, the natural order of how women are evolving into this space. As a woman, I want to know your thoughts on this because if you dogs are usually wolves, but they got domesticated. And then if you have a dog who never goes outside, it doesn't interact with other dogs the same way another dog do. My brother has a cat, and that cat doesn't really interact like other cats because it's never been involved because it lost a leg when it was young, and it was abused, so it doesn't interact the same way. So my question is, how did you fix what you perceive the notion to help modern women? Because a lot of these spaces, let's be honest, the way it has changed over time, in which we'll get in that argument in a minute, that discussion, has kind of turned them just openly against them because the way of people have evolved. Headline culture, in which you just put a headline, you don't have to read it, and it can cause a whole bunch of scenarios. You can have a whole bunch of different things going on because I put a headline that someone said this, and they really didn't say that, but I could just put that headline, and that was people, and it gets an instant reaction. Instantaneous reactionary culture is what we into now.
Mm-hmm.
How do you subscribe to any young woman that's watching this who might not know who you are, or they hear red pill and just turn off because all the things they have actually seen from them has been so toxic, thanks to the most popular people, which are right now who are the most popular people, Fresh and Fit, um, Andrew Tate. These people automatically turn them off, which is going to be my argument later on also to why you should probably make your own space because once, and I'm going to give historical facts on why when things go bad that way and things are taken over, you should probably leave. Whig Party, which I gave it away, and multiple other historical parties and things. How do you tell these women, or how do you convince these women? Listen, I'm not on board with what they're talking about. They're talking about anti-women, everything. It's women's fault. If I don't brush my teeth, it's women. I'm only motivated by women. I won't buy. I've seen people argue with on BMT channel and other channels that they not buying a house because they don't have a woman. Which I'm like, you should buy a house for property purposes. That's not just wise in general. And
Mm-hmm.
then they have all these strange arguments, and it's basically come down to they are upset that women they don't have the greatest interaction with women, and you've often seen these things go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So they see that and they see everything that's going on. How do you prescribe to them that this is not what you're talking about? This is what I'm trying to get to. I'm ignoring all their talking points, all that jumbo. But as a pure red pillist, this is what I'm talking about and not what they're talking about. Because that's the fight you're going to have. That's my whole argument. If you create your own space and get your own group, I see a bunch of women in here and things, and I think you can do it. But how do you get in that space or even try to convince them saying red pill? Because
You
I
don't.
don't know what I'm saying. So how do you so if you're talking to a young woman who would actually listen to you.
Then she'll listen. It's not complicated. See, I made that mistake as well when I first got to this space in 2017. I thought if I was just right, which I was, not tuning my own horn, but I was. But I just thought if I was just right, and not only that I was right, but that if you were to just follow what I was saying, that it would be better. Like you would see the improvement in your life, in your relationships, in your outcomes, and you'd be like, yes, okay, she was right after all. She does this professionally outside of here. People would pay for just the little drops of advice she gives here and there. Literally, do pay for that all around the world, right? And so you think to yourself, okay, well, since I'm right, then if I just can just prove to these people that I'm right, then they'll listen. But the fact of the matter is, it's 100% not true. You cannot make anybody believe you. You can't make anyone believe anything you say. Even if you give people irrefutable proof that you're right, you still can't make people believe that what you're saying is right. You cannot. And even if you can prove to some level, they have no choice but to begrudgingly, because they have at least a little bit of logic, admit that what you're saying is logical and true. At the end of the day, you still can't make them apply that to their lives and live their lives according to that thing. You can't. It is literally impossible. And I drove myself crazy for years because I really thought that you could, right? And I thought that that's what all of these other people were doing, is they just had a better argument than I did, right? I don't mean better as in more right. I mean as in they were better at arguing it. They were better at presenting it in a way. And if I could just figure out the way to present it to these people, well, then everyone would listen. No, that's not the way it worked. And what I figured out actually is that sometimes it is literally just the messenger, because there's a lot of things, and there are people in this space, in the chat room today, who can attest to this, that I would bring things up and everybody would tell me I was wrong. Everybody. And I would fight to the death to prove I was right. And I would pull a research, I would prove it. And everyone would still say I was wrong. But then 6 months later, everybody would be preaching that fact that I brought up. And that 6 months ago, everyone told me I was wrong. Now everyone's saying that I was right. But they're not saying I was right. They're saying they're right. They're just dismissing the fact that I said it at all. And now that, because these gentlemen are saying it, right, now everyone's willing to admit that that thing is right. Right? So sometimes it's just the messenger. Sometimes it comes down to a readiness or a willingness to hear something, to want to embrace it or not. Right? A lot of the women, for example, I work with at women's retreats, they're at the retreat because they're ready to be there. The things that they are receiving at the women's retreat, at the one-on-ones and whatever, that they would not have been able to receive 6 months ago. The reason why, it's because they are ready to receive it. They're ready to hear it. They're ready to make those changes. You cannot force people to be ready for therapy. You cannot force people to be ready for change. You cannot force people to be ready for truth. Right? All you can do is sit over here and offer it. Right? And the people who are ready for it, who are willing to hear it, who are willing to embrace it, who are willing to at least analyze it, right? Those are the people who are going to hear you, who are going to listen to you, who are going to have time and patience to hear you through, hear you out, and then think about it afterwards. And the people who aren't ready, they hate me. They hate my guts, both men and women. They hate my guts because I am not obviously on the sisterhood side. I'm obviously not over here on the extreme manosphere side. I'm in the middle somewhere, because my argument isn't to support a particular movement so much as to support just facts and truth and functionality in the Black community, right? And a lot of people hate me for that, and a lot of people love me for that. And so I'm not speaking for all the people who hate me for it. I'm speaking for all the people who love me for it, all the people who respect me for it, the people who are in my inbox, who send me emails and stuff to thank me for speaking on things that, you know what, no one else is speaking about, or no one else will fight for. Like, I'll fight for the value of marriage to men. I will fight for that. And men will email me and thank me for that, right? So now, are they in the chat room fighting to the death? No, no, they're not. They're in my, but they are thanking me in my Gmail later, right? So, in and of itself, I have to remember a lot of times I'm speaking for the people who feel like they don't have a voice, or feel like if they were to voice it, then they would be ostracized or cast out or shamed out of being in a space that they desperately need support from anyway. So,
The marketer and me want to argue that, but I'm not. This ain't about that. But
you go ahead, listen. I said debater view. Go ahead.
oh, like I'm, but that's not what the thing about. Because I'm marketing, like I'm like the way you present things and certain things. And I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about people in general. That's why certain groups tend to go for feelings, which they tend to. It's a way to manipulate people's feelings, because people are more. As the more you learn, I notice on social media, and the easier it is to access to certain things, the more you can give off an empathetic feel. I don't want to really call it empathy, because it's something a little different. I don't think it's like legit empathy, but I think it's like, oh, that's messed up. I want to help to fix it, and it don't matter if it's right or wrong. It's just like, I just want to do that. So I think most people market to that. The same, like I said, we bring up the Andrew Tates, the Fresh and Fit. They talk to a certain audience. They know men are lonely. There are a higher rate of men that are lonely now. It's a higher rate of, like I said, nature versus nurture. Women are able to do more, so it's more of a direct threat. It's not like it's easy as it once was. I grew up when my dad was a sharecropper. Uncles were sharecroppers, Vietnam vets. It was typically easier to maneuver. You're not as More people had to be extroverts back in the day than now, because now you can just sit at a computer and find like-minded people. You used to have to go out and find people. So a lot of things have changed over time. Like I said, nature versus nurture. As we evolve and we do evolution, and things grow, and we get and things become more different. Women have more rights, and women are able to do more. Women are able to work. I was telling somebody the other day that if a woman goes to work 40 hours a day, she's not going to be as willing as my grandma in 1965 to wring your bath water and cook because she's working the same amount of hours you are. It ain't just
Mhm.
going to be as happy go lucky. But if you can afford that, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of women that want to be taken care of. There are plenty of women that actually want to be taken care of. But the thing is, because of inflation, I got the stats right here. The average down payment on a house is $60,000 now.
Mhm.
So you have to do that. An average home is 341,000, a lot higher than it used to be, a lot higher. So now you have to get a home and active and thing. You have to like have probably have more people work because the down payment is more than what the average human being makes a year. The down payment is $68,320. That's 20%. You have the fixed interest at 2.95. You have $250 of existing monthly debt, now in student loans and all that stuff. You want a better job. So oftentimes you have these struggles in which men and women are trying to find that dynamic. And as my cousin said, shout out to my cousin, he presented to me in a way that was unique to me. He said, "We just got free, so in this America, black people are basically just now becoming teenagers. And what teenagers do, they typically argue. So you see a lot of bickering between black men and black women because we are just now finding ourselves, and women, just black women and even black men, are just now being able to get college educated and finding these spaces. And black men, unfortunately, has had a lot of things going against them with crime bills and other things and just horrible influences. And where do you find that nature nurture part, and where do you find that balance? And how do you tell a young woman today that okay, it's okay to be a modern woman? As we know, Ruby is very educated, but also it's okay to be traditional as well. Because I think that's the fight that most people are having on an empathy card, right? Because I'm trying to balance in this new space because, like I said, black women are just now that are starting to get educated. Black men are starting to get educated, but inflation is up, and we have a lot we got to deal with. It's easier to stay in an apartment than actually get property and land, and the way the government and the way the world is going because of inflation and everything. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Where do you find that balance between traditional and modern? Because you gonna have some a lot of cases unless you can pull a top. What's the term? I got the percentage right here. A top 1% earner is 3 million. A top 10% is 173,000. The average is 50,000. So unless you can find the top 10%, chances of you being able to get taken care of is slim. So how do you find that balance? How would you tell a young woman as yourself to find that balance?
I think there is balance. So I'll explain what I mean by that. It's very simple. Um, where is the difference between nature versus nurture? Well, it's simple. Men and women evolved differently. We evolved to specialize and to be really good at completely different things. Now, when you put those skill sets together, you kind of create the ultimate being or the ultimate couple because men, for example, they're very macro minded. Women are very micro minded. That is to say, men are better long term thinkers, planners, visualizers. Women are better at taking that big thought, that big idea, and literally enacting it in such a way that the day to day, that micro follows through on the big plan. So this is like men and women come together. We do things differently and we specialize in things differently. And as a result, that means we're also just going to be faster and better at different things. So, for example, you can continue as a woman, and I'm just going to keep it a buck. You can continue forever as a woman because you work full time and your husband works full time or your man works full time. And so now you want him to do 50% equally of everything inside the house. And you're just going to divide it based on the tasks that you most like and don't like or whatever, right? But here's the thing, that's not going to make him faster and better at micro level processing. It's not going to make him better at micro level movement and micro level accomplishment. It's just not. It's just not going to make him better at that type of thing, right? Just like no matter how great I am at certain things that people think are like more masculine or whatever, that's not going to make me physically more powerful or stronger than a man on average, right? Like it's just not. So there are just things about us that we can't just change just because we want to equalize things, right? And just because you're working full time doesn't necessarily change the fact that, for example, you're going to be, as a woman, better at remembering that not only are you supposed to clean the cracks and corners and crevices, but you're going to notice every single one of these little dials on the oven and that you're supposed to clean underneath them and this and that. It's not that he's not going to try to clean. It's just his mind doesn't go to the micro and go to this like crazy place where not only is it on the micro, but now we're multitasking on micro and blah, blah, blah. Men's brains didn't evolve to do all of that. They didn't. Men evolved to open one box at a time and be incredibly efficient at that one box. And then they close that box, they move on to another box, right? When they're trying to think of things, multiple things at once, it's on a macro level, right? So getting to the down and dirty and dipping in, they're not going to be as good at that, right? But they're going to be much, much better at certain types of tasks that women are not as good at. For example, dead reckoning, something, a task that men are really good at. They can travel to and from somewhere like with the straightest like line, like as in they can get there and back very easily. Men are much better directions. Men are much faster at getting to and from somewhere, right? So if you, that's why if you send a man to go get something from a mall and come back, right, he'll be way faster than the woman, right? Even if the woman's like, no, I'm not the type that gets distracted, but it will just take her longer, and she's more likely to actually get lost or to take a route that doesn't make sense and so on and so forth, right? Now, why is that important? Well, because you know what, at the end of the day, if we have two things to do today, which is to get the kitchen in tip top clean order and also to run an errand, guess which one your husband should do? He should run the errand and you should clean the kitchen, right? And no, you shouldn't swap off every other weekend so it's fair. That's stupid. Because at the end of the day, it's going to take you 3 times longer to do the errand. It's going to take him 3 times longer to clean the kitchen. And guess what? Now you guys have wasted a lot of time and energy when you know what? You could just fulfill the purpose that you're better at and not make it about, oh, gender or this or that, but I worked too. Yes, you did, right? And so things should be fair and equitable in your relationship. But fair and equitable in your relationship is not, well, he should do 50% of this because otherwise I'm being a slave. Like, no, that's not the way that works either. We have to remember we all have strengths and weaknesses, and fair, equitable distribution in a relationship is people doing what they are best at. That's just what it is.
That's true. Uh, but what if I gave you the what if I gave you the opposite perspective, right? Okay, I my father was a carpenter. I did carpentry till 2012 while I was in college. So I had this way I got my money. So I did carpentry. I can everything in my home I built myself. I also know how to change tires. Also know how to change oil. I find when I speak to a lot of men, even in the other, they don't know how to do that. So if a modern woman be like, I want a man to be able to do that, and they can't, wouldn't that be the same argument about the women who don't? Why? Because
Mm-hmm.
again, I know the socioeconomic thing. They don't have a father to teach them. I had my neighbor taught me how to gut a fish. My neighbor taught me how to do a deer. I mean, how to skin a deer and do all that stuff. So oftentimes, I often think, do we have this thought process of how things should be, and it often does not come to it. So I want to just get your thoughts on that. When the opposite is also the same, women know how to clean and cook and do all these things because on that level, and men know how to do this. Because to me, that sounds even. I just want to know your thoughts on that.
Well, here's the thing, right? First of all, everything for men, right? Men trying to assess a situation, as far as let's say all of the stuff that needs to be done housework wise. The reason why men think that it's small and easy is again they're not good at analyzing, assessing, keeping track of all of the micro level details. So in and of itself, for them, there's a bunch of broad strokes. They underestimate how long those broad strokes would take for them to be able to follow through on to begin with, anyway, right? And then they underestimate how many of those things there are. So yeah, when you think about it, you have no idea. Fine. But now here's the other end to that scale. When women try to estimate those man tasks, they do the same thing. It would be so easy. It will take you 5 seconds, right? And so women also have they're not good at trying to estimate concepts like, taking things apart and putting them back together. That's not really like a woman's strength. It's not something that our brains do well as well, right? It's not the kind of problem solving the woman brain does. It's the kind of problem solving that a male brain does. And so we're not good at estimating that either. Now, when it comes to men, most men actually, if you give them a chance, even though no one taught them crap, give them a chance, they will peter around. They'll try it. They'll try to figure it out. They'll open up YouTube. They'll try to pretend that they know what the hell they're talking about when they don't, right? But then they're going to try to look it up and then try to figure it out. They might call a friend or an uncle or something. But they're going to try. They're going to try. I remember once I was on the highway and I was going to meet my boyfriend at the time, right? My boyfriend at like this bar, right? And so him and all his friends were there. And right before I was about to get off the highway, I blew a tire. And rather than pull over and just change the tire myself, I figured what I'll do is I'll drive there. I'll go get me a beer. This is back when I used to drink. Get me a beer, sit down for a second, and then I'll change the tire. Because for me, changing the tire is like a 20, maybe 30-minute max thing. Because I had one of those old school, the jacks that you actually have to go like this and keep going and going and going. So yeah, about 20 minutes. So anyway, so I pull up now and they see I'm driving really slowly and they're all outside on the patio smoking. They're like, oh, don't worry, we'll take care of it. You go sit down with the ladies. Okay. So I went and sat down with the ladies. And 3.5 hours later, these clowns were still surrounding my car trying to change one tire, which suggests what? Not only did no one teach them, which for the record, most of them had fathers in the house, but most of them had never felt compelled to change a tire. And I realize it's also not just because there aren't fathers around, it's because there are things like CAA, or I guess you guys have a AAA, and whatever that are around. So you don't have to know how to change your own tire because you can just star 611 or whatever the thing is, and boom, there you go. These people will show up in half an hour, fix your problems for you. You don't have to know how. Or oh well, gee, I don't know how to do plumbing. Plumbing is super confusing. Plumbing is something that a professional needs to handle. Absolutely not true. I installed the plumbing in my bathroom upstairs. You know what? It's pretty much super simple. But they convince you that not just anyone could do it, so that way you pay someone like the plumbers, right? So in and of itself, right, the men are like, oh, I don't want to screw this up. What if I screw it up? What if she looks at me like I'm a clown and whatever? So they don't want to do it, but it's actually not that hard. And so what I find though is that men are kind of afraid these days to be clowned, and to be shamed, to be told that they're not good enough. They're trying to live up to all these ideals of masculinity and manhood. And when the truth is, there's so much of their masculinity that we've kind of erased as a necessity, like the way that society is these days. Whereas in cooking and cleaning is still a necessity, right? But like building your own house is not. So I think a lot of them are just afraid. They're afraid to really try to engage. But in my experience, if you allow them to, they really want to. And if you don't make fun of them and you don't like shame them and you're just supportive, then they will invest themselves into it. And if you allow them to keep investing themselves, they'll get better over time. I swear to God, they really do.
I do agree with that. I think people do want to do it, but I think, and I was talking to a church member yesterday, and we were talking to him. I was speaking to him. I said, one thing I always talk about the men in my life. Why? Because they simply just spent 5 minutes to teach me something. It was my neighbor, Mr. Dorsey. He's an older male. He was my mom's teacher actually, and I would get out. The school bus didn't go all the way to the house, so I had to get out for his house. I go through. He called my name. Come here. I'm gonna show you something. And he just randomly took time to show me how to gut a fish and skin a deer. I said that earlier. I haven't, Ruby. I have never had to do that other than those times. But you notice something that I did. I remember that. I actually remember it. That was when I was 8 years old. That'd be over 20 years ago. And I still remember him actually taking the time to teaching me something. And I think a lot of, which is we're gonna get into shortly, because I know people want to get to. I find that a lot of people just don't give basic, like, how to do, how to care, how to. We all worried about how society feels, as you said. We all worried about how this and that goes along. and how everyone is going to perceive us and how if we're going to fail or if somebody's going to laugh at us. And I still remember him sitting there and like, even if you don't get it right, we got another fish. That one, that little thing. So now, if we in a situation where I have to get a fish, I know how to do it. I know to pluck the eyeballs up, go in. I know how to actually do it, even though I never had to do it, just because somebody took the time to teach me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just the neighbor. He was just my neighbor. That's it. Just a guy who's like, hey, come here. I'm going to show you something. And I feel like a lot of grown men. That's why I talk to the young men in my area. I haven't did it lately, but I used to. And I tried to even start a nonprofit that was going to do camps to teach them how to do STEM prior to successes with Tougaloo College. But COVID ruined that, so we didn't have a chance to do that in
Oh.
our area. So we were going to do a whole camp. We had it like planned out. We got the we got the like the camps together. We were gonna get the buses. We was gonna get the money. We had the grant, and then the COVID stopped it. So, and I thought that was gonna be amazing for us. But I noticed that when I was trying to get everything together, I did see women that offered help. I didn't. The thing that disappointed me. Hey, how you doing, my guy? The thing that disappointed me was I got no male help in trying to get it done outside of me and the guy who was trying to get it done. I had women to help, and I'm like, why do y'all not want to help? Again, this is in a poor area, so oftentimes that would happen. So I saw that no man was willing to actually help get these kids to learn about how to build a little robot to do astronomy. Because I did teach STEM at Tougaloo for a year, and I wanted to get that, and I did that in 2021, but I was already set up to do some camps, so I just did that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so disappointed that no man took the time out to like, hey, we're gonna get this done, we're gonna help, and everything else. So I often come up with the concept that even if they don't do it, I gotta do it. And I think that's how even men and women can do. Because my brother is like he's a PhD. He does child and parent education. So when they speak, all the little black kids when they see him, I ain't gonna say his name, but they call him Mister and say his name, and they smile at the little black boys, and I'm like, that what you need more of. Even when I was doing the STEM for the high school with Tougaloo, all the little black boys be happy to see a male there that looks like them, that's not just doing what they think. And that goes to my argument that Ruby need to make her own space and and be a role model.
How? Wait, what? I'm missing the connection, the direct correlation. The way I see it, I'm actually supporting this space that would support that effort that you have in and of itself and supporting that effort being built and a space being built in such a way that men have resources of men to pull from and say, guys, I've put this together to help the young brothers in so and so community, anyone who lives nearby. Come on, let's do this. We put this together. Anyone who's in engineering or this or that or computer science or what, come on. We have this clinic. We're volunteering our time to help Black Boy Joy or whatever the heck the movement's going to be called. So you know what I mean? But like at the end of the day, if you don't have an initial resource of men, a collective of men that are saying, no, I care about our young men. I care about our young boys. I care about helping them and whatever, and you don't like know where to pull from, then who are you asking? Like randoms off the street? Well, you don't know them people, and you don't know what they're about. You don't know what their priorities goals are. You don't know why they would want to show up. At least online, you could even like kind of low key research some folk and make sure they don't have any type of child records or crazy things or whatever before you tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, I heard you live in this city. I'm doing this. Would you be interested? But see, this is what happens. Black men don't tap each other like that. They really don't. And so what ends up happening is there's a lot of assumptions going around, but hey, there's a whole entire space of men who are here to that care about men's issues, about young boys falling through the cracks and so on and so forth. Did you tap any of them on the shoulder and say, hey, I'm doing this thing. Anyone want to help? Or did you like, you know what I mean? Because I mean that's what the space is supposed to be here for.
And I was just joking, by the way. But this is the point I was
Hey,
trying to get to after you spoke. That's exactly what the space was before the money got involved. Now it's corrupted, and the message and definition has been changed.
Well,
That
I
is
don't want to leave DJ Naff anyway because he already told me to shut up. So no, I'm kidding. DJ Naff is cool. He's funny.
so that does lead to my question. We have talked about
Mhm.
how the red pill space has changed. I want, like I said, I'm not from here. I don't want to be. So, Ruby, can you tell me how has the space changed, and what are you not liking about how the space has changed?
Well, no, he's absolutely right. I mean, again, the red pill message and ideology has been corrupted. The manosphere is entirely different than it was. I mean, you can literally go and look at some of the big content creators and some of the big names and go listen to what they were saying 7 years ago and go listen to what they're saying now. It's like a world of difference. Their messages, and the saddest part about it is that most of the ones that the message is exactly the same between like 10 years ago and now, those are the ones that aren't blowing up. The ones that are blowing up though, oh no, they just kept changing with the times. Because what ended up happening invariably, right, is the option to almost go mainstream happened for, I will say, Tommy Sotomayor. That was the first person kind of in this manosphere space that had the option to really go mainstream, not just popular but mainstream, right? Because Phil from the Advice Show was popular. He's from this space initially, and he changed his message as well. He's starting to try to go back to it a little bit, but he was on the you baby mama drama and da 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 message, right? Now he's all on the African diaspora and whatever, right? But Tommy Sotomayor was kind of like this message, and a lot of the Manosphere 2.0 guys kind of really looked up to Tommy, and Tommy wanted nothing to do with any of them. He's like, "Oh, you guys are a bunch of losers, and this and that, da 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 da." But he got a chance to go mainstream. He got a chance. He was basically being pulled by the conservatives, right? And he just didn't know how to behave himself, shall we say, long enough for him to continue going mainstream. And so that kind of died out. But I think at that point, it showed the space that, wait a minute, we can go mainstream. Like, really? I mean, there was a lot of attention about the manosphere and about incels, and it was mostly the white manosphere and white incels, but still, there was a lot of attention that was coming in the media about these people and about these spaces and whatever, and a lot of interest. And that's why it was like, oh, wait a minute. So I could go mainstream and people could actually listen to me, and I could be the face. I could be a face of a movement. And so I think that's part of where the corruption came from. I think the rest of the corruption, though, simply just came from the fact that what you who how to explain this without getting myself in trouble. Okay, basically, what ended up happening is if you were to go when I first got to this space, the incels were a very small sect of the manosphere. And when they said no, most of our content had nothing to do with dating, because that's a very, very small sect as well, right? They were being serious. There was a lot of talk about business, about growth and development, about, as men, just to self actualize. There's a lot of discussion like that. Um, and now what you kind of see, and you can see that overall the space has changed dramatically. Like when I comment on videos now, I get a rush of hundreds of people just hating me because I'm female. And I'm not even kidding, because I could say something that generally the space doesn't disagree with, but because I'm a woman, they'll just start coming for me, right? And it didn't used to be like that in this space, right? The content wasn't all about let's find a way to demonize all women. If there's a married woman here, well, she's disrespectful to her husband and da 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 da, and so let's tear her down. And well, there's pick me, but you know what? No, all pick me's are just here to da da da. It was just like it became like this hate fest of women, and it is a large majority of channels now, and even channels that have gotten a lot bigger, they hyper focus on this one area of the men's spaces as though it's like the only area, but it seems to be now the majority, right? Because of places like Fresh and Fit, because it was angry kids really who came in through Fresh and Fit and said, yeah, screw these witches, because they can't get none, really is what it is, right? And they want to be angry, they don't want it to be their fault, and so they're kind of in the red pill rage area, and then they're just spewing that everywhere, and then they're finding more like minds, and anyone who doesn't have that like mind is backing off, right? And so that means the loud minority, the loudest voices, and the loudest messages that you are seeing is that. It's that over there. But that still doesn't say that that's the majority of the space. Unfortunately, the majority of the space are not the ones going mainstream and are not the messages that are, allowing these hateful, vengeful, angry red pill ragers and black pill ragers to run around in these streets. Like they're not. It's not the same, right? But it's like we want to make the manosphere really monolithic when it's not.
I see what you're saying. So what you're saying, I find this in a lot of spaces too. I find this even in liberal spaces when I speak. When I see this in conservative spaces, usually you have this group of people who start something that initially is good and for help. In every movement, it seems to be like this. This is a common theme. And then all of a sudden, something comes in and it gets more popular and it gets more popular, and the ideas, and a lot of it's just hate watchers. So you'll see a conservative. The most popular conservative is what Steven Crowder almost. He says
Mm-hmm.
controversial things, right? But you have like this pure blooded conservative who's actually conservative and believes in this limited government, all of this stuff. But Stephen Crowder, the one that gets attention. Why? Because he'll make this random KKK joke about black people that seem to get all the attention. You see, even in the feminist movement, you'll see somebody like, "Yo, we just want equal rights." I actually know someone that just want that, and then they even disagree. That you get to this point where you see this, you'll see a woman who just says anything. In the socialism argument, you'll see that someone all of a sudden just wants basic necessities taken care of, like Social Security and all that. And then you have a socialist who just wants pure Marxism and just wants like the extreme version. You see
Mm-hmm.
it, and I'm feeling like, not even feeling. The studies show that extremism is at an all-time high, and there's a lot of money in extremism. So if you become the extremist version that you can be, you are almost guaranteed at this point to start making money. You're almost, it's like the easiest way to make money, whether it's being a super liberal or super conservative or very
Mm-hmm.
anything. Why? Because everything is geared, especially on TikTok and even YouTube. When people say something controversial, it's promoted everywhere. And everybody, like I said, cultural, thanks to social media. And I noticed this not being in social media since till 2018, but everybody's so reactionary. I'm so used to, I see something, somebody can make a comment about me, somebody can say headline, somebody can do this. In 2017, I was calling out the people at in a town near me when I was on the radio, and I called them all out. They all got angry. And I did not care. I'll go home and live my life. But now everybody's reaction. I got to get my opinion. I got to get my thoughts out. I got to get this out. This person said this. I see a popular name now, Donovan Sharp, who's real popular, especially around the people that don't like the RedPill, who they are going on like this crusade to
So wait,
destroy
who?
humans.
What was the
And
name you just said?
Sharp, what's his name? I think is it Donovan Sharp?
Oh, Donovan Sharp.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Sorry, what were you saying about Donovan Sharp? I just want to check.
I was just saying that you see Alvin preaching Destiny, and a lot of people just making YouTube channel getting a lot of views, exposing him for when he says these wild things that he doesn't live. And I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people see that.
Well, to be fair though, Donovan Sharp was basically exiled from the Black Manosphere a long time ago, and Donovan Sharp does not claim the Black Manosphere. So in and of itself, whatever harm Donovan Sharp is doing is in the White Manosphere, and it's on the White Manosphere. It's not on our side. So I'm just saying.
That is true. As you see, Bitter Truth say, all you can hear is that New Age is all they can talk about is women. Um, I come from a place where I like to get solutions, and I don't like these conversations where everything is changing. And I think that's what the world is getting because I think our attention span is becoming more TikTok related. So it's more reactionary. It's not doing studies. It's how I feel and reactionary. So all that I said to just ask you, Ruby, this: do you feel like the reactionary content is making
Mhm.
everything extreme and making easy money?
I think it is definitely easy money, and ultimately, it's just the nature of the beast. And a lot of actually TV shows get themselves screwed over this way as well. So you think about, for example, okay, one of my favorite shows got ruined by this, House MD, right? So the TV show gets into the bit of needing to one up itself every season, it's basically already signing its own death date. And the reason why is because there's only so extreme you can keep going. If you are selling your show based on how extreme you need to go the next season to one up yourself, then what ends up happening is eventually you are going to violate the rules that people have engaged in. As in, I'm engaging with you and I'm supporting you, and I don't mind if you go a little extreme, right? But you can actually violate my expectations or violate my relationship with these characters, and at that point, I'm going to stop supporting. And that's in essence what happened with House. They violated the whole entire basis of this show was that you have this drug addict doctor who kind of low key has a reason for being a drug addict, and he's just this brilliant mind. And so while they had him dip into extreme levels of behavior or this or that or whatever, he never went so far as to violate something that we couldn't forgive him for until he drove his car into Cuddy's house and ran Cuddy off the show. And at that point, that was it. That show was never going to last more than another season. And they had to do that because they already had, season after season, they keep one upping themselves, right, on this show. And because of that, right, eventually people get exhausted. The same thing is going to happen with every possible movement, every possible whatever. When your entire basis of people following you is for extreme views and shock factor, eventually you are going to exhaust your audience, and eventually you're going to violate what it is that they're showing up for. You're going to violate it. And at that point, they're going to fall back. And that's what happened, for example, with on the women's side, right? Listen, we are all for on the women's side, not me, but I'm just saying the women, right? We are all for, you know, the Dusties and the Black Man ish and da da da. We are all for that, right? But what women were not for is a message that suggested that they should terminate Black boys in utero, right? But only the Black boys. That was a violation. Now, the most extreme voices, the most extreme voice, and we all know which woman brought that bull out here, right? But the most extreme voices now, they had to keep one upping themselves. How did they get the interest back? How did they get the fury back on them? How did they get all, well, we got to keep one upping themselves. But you know what they did was they violated the relationship Black women have with Black children. Because see, this is the thing: Black women don't are not saying, "Oh, Black men, oh, well, there's something wrong with us genetically. Black boys are just born that way." No, none of that's happening. So when you have this woman who comes in and suggests that, and then suggests that Black women should just terminate all of their children in utero, and that like they're just hopeless. That's basically telling every woman who has a son that all your sons are hopeless. And that violated something major. And you see her, not only her relationships with other YouTubers, but overall her support has dwindled dramatically because there's a way that you can go too far. You can go too far. So even though everything has been about that drama factor, people go too far and they exhaust their listeners, and then guess what? Then they're gone. In fact, there's so much so that the people whose names were huge 5 years ago, 3 years ago, where are they? No one even knows where those people are anymore. No one even knows where they are. They're gone. They're gone. You know why? Because they did the same thing. They violated, they exhausted their listeners. Their listeners moved on to something that wasn't so extreme, but was still shocking.
I know my thoughts sometimes be all over the place because you say a lot, so I just want to just gather my thoughts. And one thought I did have is I'm not trying to take over. I can talk all day, so I try not to take over the show. So I kind of just run through some quick. But one thing I have noticed is that, as you say, they are trying to go mainstream. One person I've seen they have been arguing with is Disney. They go after Abba and Preach. They going after all these people, and it's not even that they're going after them because they don't really disrespect them. Just per thing, they don't really disrespect them. They just want to go on their platform to send a message. And oftentimes, I'm looking at it, and everything you say is hard to argue. But when you listen to them talk, and this is what my thing is about the science of the red pill and trying to get people to know what you're trying to say, and that's why I wanted to bring you on to talk about this. because I hear BMT say the same thing. So if he just angry at them, and you're, but they go on these shows and they look completely baffled by what they say. They just say certain facts. Destiny is a premier debater, and he go in a debate,
Mm-hmm.
and he just rakes through all the stats, and they can't respond to him. And then he basically get to the point where they actually say that we just want to divest from the African American community. They got beat so bad, Ruby, in that debate that they started off like, "I'm trying to help black people." To the at the end, because if you go back and look at the Angry Man debate and all them, it started off with this: "Oh, we want to help black people," and then at the very end, they're like, "We just need to divest." And I'm like, "Wow!" Did he? And he was like, "That sounds unfortunate." I'm like, "Wow." This debate went from "we gonna help" to "we gonna just divest," and we just don't need to be a part of this. I'm like, so when you get through your talking points, that is what you ultimately come up with because that's how you sound, and you can't argue it. So, so how did you feel watching things like that go on? Because I don't think I ever got your reaction to that type.
Well, here's the thing. Just because I support red pill ideology, I support pure red pill ideology, and I support men's rights, and I support the manosphere, doesn't mean I support every single content creator within the manosphere. It definitely doesn't mean that I support all of their messages or all of their reasoning or all of their lack of reasoning, in my opinion. Because again, honestly, if you were to take the black conservatives versus Destiny, Destiny is closer to what where I stand on a belief system than black conservatives are, right? So even though I do definitely have some conservative or traditional beliefs or values, right? Like I said, I am a leftist, right? I am a progressive, and so is Destiny. So I tend to agree with what Destiny is saying, and I think that it is good. I think this is why I don't agree with echo chambers, because, and I say this all the time, and then I get a lot of haters when I say it, but I say, listen, I don't sit in the women's on like women's channels or in women's streams and challenge them. I don't. And part of the reason why is because, like with the ones I don't agree with, right? I don't agree with you. So I don't actually want to argue with you, because then when I argue with you, I'm giving you the opportunity to make a better argument. And I don't really want to give you the opportunity to make a better argument because I don't like your argument. So I tend to sit in the chat rooms of, content creators. Like overall, we have something we might agree on, or an overall underlying basis we agree with or something. And then I will normally state things I disagree with. And it drives people crazy. It really does. I've noticed. But the reason why I'm doing it is because I'm giving you the opportunity to create a better argument. Because it's only once your ideas are challenged, it's only when you have to fill these gaps. Because a lot of times I will disagree with something, or I'll bring up a point of contention. And it's not because I disagree with your point, even. It's because I don't see how you could fill that hole. So if you can fill that hole, great. Then you've solved that problem, right? And it actually helps me overall. I end up doing that a lot, and the reason why I do it is because I want you to come up with a better argument. If you can come up with a better argument, right, I will 100% support that argument. But if you can't, then you're showing me that your argument's really weak. And if you can't allow your ideas to be challenged by people who disagree with you, then you're admitting already that you know your argument is weak. You know that you have no factual basis, or that in and of itself, the facts would have to literally clash with other facts in order for this thing to be right. Because otherwise, you wouldn't mind having your ideas challenged. And that's why I have an issue with the echo chambers, because what ends up happening is these people get brought together over maybe even one true thing that is objectively true. They get brought together. But then now they're in the echo chamber, and everyone in the echo chamber supports and believes everything that everyone else is saying, because you guys all have this one point that you already agree on. And so what ends up happening then in the echo chamber is that it's this crazy thing where, since no one's ideas are ever being challenged, everything sounds great, everything sounds right, until they step out of the echo chamber, and then they go somewhere else, and then their idea challenged, and they go, oh, well, I didn't think of that. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly the thing I've been saying for years that I want to prevent. Because if I agree with your overall argument about marriage or about this or about that, I want you to have a really good argument. I want you to have many good arguments. That way, when you go out there, Some woman who hates men and hates marriage can't tear you down just because they brought up something you never thought of. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what ended up happening. Not I'm not saying that Destiny was wrong. Like I said, I mostly agree with Destiny. But I think what ends up happening is a lot of people live in echo chambers and don't realize that's where they are all the time. So they think they're being challenged when they never have been or they haven't been in a long time. So then they step out and they have to talk to someone like Destiny, and suddenly, and Destiny doesn't care about your feelings. He's a facts over feelings kind of dude. Like if I had found Destiny before I found the Manosphere, that might be where I am to this day, right? But that's how he is, and so he just challenged their thought. No, you can't shame him. You can't say he's a single mother. You can't say he's a this. You can't shame him out of his belief system. You can't. And he's willing to give you the credit when credit is due. Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm a white guy, so da da da. He's willing to do that, and he's still going to say you're wrong. Now what? And here's his research. And oh, you want to bring up these facts and say, okay, wait, but what's the fact? No, but where's the research? No, I'm going to pull it up right now. Where's it? Like no laziness. We have a lot of laziness in the Black community where we don't fact check anything ever at any point. So people just bring up facts and statistics and research all the time, and you know what? No one fact checks the damn thing. And that's how we had a bunch of people walking around saying that only 1 in 4 Black women will get married in a lifetime. That is 1,000% not true. Not what the research said. That's not what blackdemographics.com said about the research. But all it took was one big name to misunderstand or misreport that research, and that was it. Across the Black community now, it's 1 in 4 Black women will get married in a lifetime. This is what happens, and then the idea never gets challenged. And then when some feminist challenges it and they pull up the information, then now what are you going to do? Well, you got to start tap dancing and speaking in circles, and now you've made your entire argument look irrelevant or invalid when it might not be, all because you've never had your idea challenged. So I think that's really what Destiny is proving. Destiny is proving how much it's been a while since this space's ideas have been challenged, and that might have allowed for a major breakdown in logic and in logical continuity and in feelings over facts to start being pervasive or to dominate some ideas. And I think that overall Destiny is a good thing because that's going to force people to revert back to better times, in my opinion.
Let's go to some comments and see what they said. How that wasn't welfare and feminism invaded our homes.
Because he said that it's still at least married. No, we absolutely are. But here's the problem, though, right? Is that if you start off and say, well, only 1 in 4 Black women will get married in a lifetime, and it's like, well, actually, no, just over 50% of Black women will get married in a lifetime, and only 48% of Black men will get married in a lifetime. So actually, Black women are doing better than Black. Now, as soon as someone brings that, here's the problem: it squashes the argument of 1 in 4 so badly that whatever reason why you were bringing it up is already irrelevant, right? You've already invalidated your own argument because you came with such a wildly inaccurate statistic, right? So if you had started with only 50% of Black women will get married in a lifetime, 50% never will. That's a huge issue, right? But like we're not even going to focus on the right issue because we're going to focus on the fact that you were wrong, right? And as soon as you give people, your enemies, leverage like that, that's it. You've lost. You've lost 100%. And I don't, again, especially when it's an argument that's important to me, I don't want people that are arguing my argument or like on my side to lose to that extent because no one bothered to challenge you ever before right now.
That is true. And once I've noticed that even in politics, it's like a thing in which you can actually convince people in what you actually listen to because they want to hear. It's the same thing. It's like a technique I call it when the pastor uses a certain voice. It's like a change in tone. It's like goes in your brain. It's actually very interesting when you actually like study how to like do public speaking and do these things. That it's like a certain tone that you can use and it reverberates in people's mind. They even do it on TikTok, which is why certain sounds always work on TikTok, and people seem to be attracted to certain sounds more. And that just anything you say or use in that tone or in that thing or in that song or beat or expression actually convinces people to believe something just because it is like it resounds with them. If I want to believe that black women are evil, anything you say negative about black women, and I relate that to when I'm talking to Democrats or when I'm talking to Republicans, I'm doing research for them and stuff, and I speak to them, they they will actually know it's not true, and they will say things, and they will say, "I had the lieutenant governor of the state of my man. He actually told me we are at war. It don't matter if it's true or not. What that matter? I'm trying to get voted in. It don't matter if what I'm saying is true." And I feel like a lot of these people now start. That's I think they're starting to come to regular people now, which scares me because I hated politics just because like I could literally I don't care about any of these people that's voting for me. We are at war, and I'm trying to win this game, and I
Mhm.
don't care how it affects anyone else. So when I see people starting to come in this community that started well and started with good intention, and now they're like, I'm trying to win this game of success on YouTube, on TikTok. I don't care how it affects any young man that I see. I don't care if you start having issues where you're afraid to talk to women, that you're scared that some woman is trying to trap you with a baby or trying to do put you on or they on welfare and they're trying to get you to have a baby with them so they get more welfare. I don't care if you start being frightened of everybody you talk to. I just want to win in this game. And if I could get on 500,000 views on this stream, or if I could view this nonsense on this stream and you just agree with it blindly, I'm willing to do it. And that was always the scariest thing to me about politics. That was always the scariest thing about politics. And now I'm seeing it even in this space of YouTube that I'm on, when people will give up their creative integrity or their idealisms to go with what they know will help them win the game.
See, I disagree with you there. I think that it's not that people give up creative integrity; it's that we never had any. So, in and of itself, because the people who had that integrity maintain it to this day, including myself. But like, if you look at it, here's what it comes down to, and I mean, it does. For some people, that's really what it comes down to. If you look, Shar said it earlier. Shar also made a whole song about it. Uh, and the song and she played at the start of every show before she was done with the space and just done live streaming, right? And the song is you want to clap them cheeks, you want to clap them cheeks, but it's true. That's what we figured out it was. There's so many people, they never changed their anything. They never changed their point, they never changed their end goal, they never changed their drive, they never changed anything, because their drive was always, I can't clap them cheeks of whatever chick I'm aiming at. Is it big booty Keisha? Is it pick me chick over there? Whoever it is, they can't clap the cheeks that they want to clap. So all everything they're trying to do, everything they're trying to do is to clap them cheeks. Now, those types of guys, you can tell because literally they will do whatever makes them the most popular, gets them the most clout, so on and so forth, and they will have whatever message against the ain't shit, ratchet, no count, 304 woman, whatever, until a woman is in their atmosphere, and then all of a sudden they are sitting there trying to talker, talking to them, because again, their whole it's not that they've lost their integrity, it's that they never had any. Their entire goal was about clapping cheeks. So at the end of the day, if they finally get access to some cheeks, then you're just going to see that that was always their goal, right? That is different. That's true. That is different than someone who really was here because they were struggling. A lot of men, were here because they were struggling with the child support system, with the courts as far as child support, or with alimony, or with just a woman who wouldn't follow the child support, or the child visitation orders, or with whatever, right? So they were here for a real reason that had to do with their own personal struggle, other than I'm involuntarily celibate, or I am a 40-year-old virgin, or I want to clap big booty Keisha's cheeks, but she always keeps picking the other dude, not me, right? Whatever the problem was, right? The large majority were not here because of clapping cheeks. They weren't. That's why they would laugh at it, right? That's why, like, Park Apism and whatever from Obsidian, they laugh at that kind of stuff. They would watch a little bit of it. They jump onto Tommy's stream and they like the drama of it all, but that wasn't their main focus or their main goal. No, I'm not gonna stop saying cheeks. Anyway, no, it's because it's Char's song. You want to clap them cheeks. You want to clap them cheeks. I mean, you see hearing it like every Friday. We haven't live streamed this year anymore, so it's just like, I still know all the words. Yeah. But it's like, at the end of the day, I think that's the problem, right? Is, again, the manosphere is not a monolith, and neither are the men who come here. And we have to stop putting them all together in one giant pot and then saying, well, if you disagree with the angry, vengeful incel over there, or you disagree with the black pillars, or you disagree with the red pill ragers, or you disagree with the ones who are just here to clap cheeks and have no integrity, if you disagree with those people, well, then you have to disagree with the whole manosphere. That's not true.
Shout out to the chat. Shout out to Angelica. Shout out to DJ Nav. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Remember to like and subscribe.
What am I supposed to say? Smash? No, see, clapping them cheeks. I just, you know what? Listen, because I never heard anyone say the term before until Shar did, and I'm like, no, that's exactly what it is. That is what it is. It's in those terms. That's what it is. Cheeks, cheeks. I don't know why I decided to take up .tz today on that foolishness. See, they wanted to hang out, not find answers. See, this is in this one saying, okay, MOT, me and MOT disagree on a lot of things. However, at the end of the day, right, MOT was someone who was here for the actual real issues. Whether you agree or disagree with him, it came down to he was here over real things. Okay, he wasn't here so he could find a bunch of people and finally not be the loser in high school like he was, or because he needed some proximity to some 304 or woman, or just generally just proximity to anyone other than his poor lonesome self, right? You can tell the people who were here from the beginning, based on whatever they were here for, whatever their underlying drive was, because 7-10 years later they are saying the same thing now that they were saying 10 years ago. And that's my point. And then there's the ones that don't. And to be honest with you, most of the guys who have stayed, and they do have integrity, they stayed logically consistent, and they care about the message, and they actually care about men, most of those men are sick and tired of all the bullshit too. They don't want all the bullshit to represent them in their sector. They don't. But what can you do? You can't force people to follow the better plan or to follow the better message. You can't. We talked about this earlier. There's just nothing you can do about it.
Ruben, they are upset that you don't stream more. You should stream more. That's what I'm trying to do. This is what this interview is for. I'm trying to get. God, like,
is it saying I'm live? Oh, maybe it is. Is it saying I'm live? Am I live on my channel? I don't know. I clicked a bunch of stuff with this restream thing, so I don't know what happened. Honestly,
you are live. These you are. They're like you're alive. By the way, I want to do shout out to Meta tomorrow. He makes amazing content. I do watch him. I know I'll be busy editing commercials and whatnot, but shout out to him. He makes amazing content. I love to watch people that actually tries to help. Um, to DJ Nav point, I did see that he said this. It's a lot of. I noticed that a lot of pick me artists then came into the Manosphere now. There's a lot of pick me artists, pickup artists. I said pickup artists that came in from all over the place, and that's where that was Myron from. Which, if you watch his old videos, is very interesting from Fresh and Fit. He was not good at the pickup game. That was, I don't know if y'all ever saw his old videos. He was not good at it.
Oh no, it was terrible. His content before he got together with Fresh and did that whole like Myron Gaines, before he got together with Fresh and did that, bro. Like again, integrity. No, they don't have any integrity. All you have to do is look at what they were doing at the very beginning of the channel, and then now, and then you can see, no, they have no integrity. Everything that his whole entire focus changed radically. His whole personality changed. Everything about the man, Myron Gaines, changed, which tells you that no, he's not living. He had no integrity. He just wanted to make money and be popular and get clout and finally be the cool guy and finally be the guy who could tell women about themselves. Okay, that's what he wanted. That was it. That was his whole entire goal in life. He wasn't here to help young men, and I know he wasn't, because I'm telling you, there are more broken young men now because of Myron Gaines than because of any other content creator. I'm sorry, it's just ridiculous. Sorry about it. I had to say it. Oh my god, I am live. See, this is what happens when you just click buttons, because you're like, yo, I just need to get to the restream. What is restream? I don't know what this is. So apparently I'm live. Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know. Okay,
listen, I'm doing y'all. Listen. I made it work. You know what I'm saying? I got her live. Y'all, everybody excited. I got the camera on. Look at that.
I'm so scared. I can't believe I'm live streaming on my channel. I get remember because I was like, where are all these people's names coming from? Like, oh, how did they all know we were live? I didn't even get to post it on my community tab yet. And like, yeah, apparently it's because I'm. Well, I learned something new today. Okay, moving on.
I actually agree with this too. They gave women even more power than men. They gave the one
Facts,
argument
facts,
I've been,
facts, facts. Yep, 100%. Because you know what? Listen, before Fresh and Fit, before that whole era, right? Men were literally winning the gender war. They were. Because what happened was they were taking all of the mysticism and power away from, like, oh, it's a pretty girl in your atmosphere. Right? That had a lot of power. And, women were really taking advantage of that, and they were really acting like terrible people, and having these really backwards ideals and whatever, but men were just chasing it anyway, right? And so the manosphere was actually a tool, and was actually a source of strength and information. And yeah, you had a little bit, you had the pickup artists, right, and stuff. They basically started the white manosphere over there, right? But you kind of had a couple people who were talking about dating things or pump and dump or whatever, right? But like overall, that wasn't what the Black manosphere was really about. And Black men were finding like-minded men, and young guys were coming in before they were like 16, 17 coming in and stuff like that. And they were learning how to be focused on trades and what they were going to do if they went to college, and da, da, da. And all of a sudden you just saw a completely different focus, and you saw a focus on trying to educate men that self-actualization as a man is not about getting validation from a woman, right? Like, you have to self-actualize as a man, like on your own terms as an individual man, about manship, and then you can worry about being a husband or provider to a woman. But a lot of men were being taught that in essence you were never going to be a man unless you had some woman validating that, and as in you were with a woman taking care of her, that was going to make your manhood, right? And so a lot of men were being re-educated by the space in really good ways, and you were seeing some really productive things happen for a while there. And then, well, then put it that way. then Fresh and Fit came along, and then everyone saw the wild success of Fresh and Fit. A lot of people got frustrated that they had been standing there square and towing the line, and trying to actually care about Black male success and Black male power, and that wasn't making them ducats. But guess what? Fresh and Fit was making all kinds of money, right? And so they were like, oh, okay, well then maybe we should follow that, because that's clearly how you get popular and make money in this space. And then let's not talk about all of the chameleon women who came in and did the same thing as Fresh and Fit, because they realized, oh, there's so much money to be made by these guys who will have no proximity to a woman other than me. And yeah, let's do that.
she had a very interesting podcast just 2 days ago. The one Ruby is talking about. For people that don't know, I'm not gonna say her name, but she had a very interesting podcast, and yes, she has taken over a lot of space, and she has blown up about just basically blatantly just agreeing with any man, including Destiny yesterday a lot, just because whoever they say disagree with whoever is in front. It was something interesting, Ruben, the other day. He said something about, "Have you seen this movie?" And she said, "Yeah." You're like, "Really?" She's like, "No, I just said it because you said it." I'm like, "So you just agreeing to
Yes, yes, and that's what I mean. It's ridiculous. So then what happens is, and those women ruin it. Like, not only are they ruining it for good women, but they're ruining it for young men who want to be good men too, because they really think that what a good woman means is she's just going to agree with everything you say and make you feel like the most valid thing in the room at all times. Oh, of course you're in the know. You watch the movie? Yeah, me too. I love that movie. Oh my God, how did you know? Right? And so they're doing this thing and giving these young men who don't have a proximity to a lot of women unrealistic expectations about what to expect from women. And so when they see a good woman who just wants to be a good woman, real talk, they want to be a good woman to him, maybe she's really genuinely interested in him. No, they don't see it like that, because they're used to these fake ass women online who are putting on a show pretending to be something, a whole bunch of somethings that they're not. That's why there's so few women. I'm going to be real. There's very few female content creators that I've ever aligned myself with at all, right? Char Willie, obviously, and Melody are really the two that I've done content with on any regular basis, although we have like Lady Mocha. I've done a lot of content with her as well, right? There's very few women that I align myself with online. And that's why, because you have a lot of fake women who are here to benefit, and I'm not saying that there's not fake guys, but I don't align myself with them either. And I don't support their content either, right? So I only support content that I really feel that I can uphold and say, I believe in this person and I believe in what they're saying.
I always find it interesting because I don't give. I like to tell people I do not. I am right now. I'm single. I am not giving y'all a relationship. I got to work on me. So I'm not giving anybody a relationship. Listen to married men who are successful in their marriage, please. I can tell you about business marketing. I can tell you about politics. I can tell you about carpentry. It outside that realm, I can tell you. I can tell you basic pickup stuff, but that ain't how you just find somebody that's for you.
No
Which
one wants to
gets this
hear it.
point, which is single. You know what I'm saying? Make it make sense.
Yeah, no, because this is the thing, right? No one wants to hear from married people, and this is why married people are not the ones who are leading the way in discussions involving marriage. We're just not. So what you see a lot is there are definitely single people, single bitter people, um, people who have failed at any type of relationship they've ever tried in the past, and those are the people who are leading in terms of talking about marriage or relationships. I'm not even talking about just in the men's space. I'm talking about in the black space as a whole, right? Because you look at what's her face? Crystal and Keratin, right? Because she's the leader of the divestors. But wait, hold on. Didn't she fail at marriage too? She did. She did fail at marriage too, right? So you have all kinds of women who just fail left, right, and center at marriage. But yet they're telling women what they should do and what they should be holding on to and how they should be this and how they should be that. And it's like, wait, hold on. But you haven't figured out how to be successful in a marriage or in a relationship at all. You are dead ass single. Where's your ring? Oh wait, you have children too? Oh, you had children out of wedlock? Where's your ring? And why am I following you unless I want to live that life, right? And of course, you see the same thing on the men's side as well. And it's like, well, but wait, hold on. If they aren't living the life you want to live, then why are you following those people? Why aren't you following someone who has what you have? Right? But that isn't the way social media in 2023 works. People do not follow people who have what they want. People follow flex culture still. So as long as someone can flex better than the next man, that's who's getting the follows. That's who's getting the likes. That's who's getting the whatever. It's flex culture still.
Man, tomorrow said they got married in a different era. They have nothing in common with these people and cannot help them. I do agree with this
Who
somewhat.
got married in a different era though?
Oh, I'm
Like
talking about. I'm talking about who
how
he's
many people
talking.
got married in a different era?
DJ Nav said these. So we get different ideas. People say married people know them.
Because they're probably thinking of there's very few men who are married and doing content. And let's be real, most of those men are married still doing content with wives who do content. Um, and therefore, they're not being wholly honest or realistic because they have a marriage to consider, right? And they have a lot of lies. And it's true fact, the old school way to keep a marriage together was through a bunch of lies. That is the way that you kept a marriage together. You just lie, 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 lie. You hide and lie and hide and lie, and that's just how you keep things together. And that is not how we keep things together now in a marriage. It's not. Radical openness and honesty is basically the only way you can survive the social media era and the internet boom, right? But unless again you find somebody who has gotten married, been married, is still young in this era and married, you're not really going to hear that true honesty because the fact of the matter is that that is what it is. It is what it is. So I do see that there's an issue there, but like I said, I'm not talking about these relics. I'm not talking about relics. I'm talking about young people, okay, who got married in these generalized era and no one's listening to them. They are not the voice. They are not the voice of the people telling you what you should do in a marriage, how you do maintain get a good marriage, how you vet a good wife, how you vet a good husband. Those are not the people who are being listened to about that. A bunch of single people who have never done any of that are the people who are being listened to. So it's slightly a problem. Just saying.
Yeah, I'll tell this little story. My grandpa married my grandma because he had land, and he like, I want to marry your daughter, and they were like, cool. My grandma tell the story that she was just playing hopscotch, and they're like, hey, you marrying this man? I'm like, that is not finna work in 2023. I'm sorry. Hey, hey, I got land. I'm gonna marry your daughter. Okay, we need somebody with land. Give us a little
Mm-hmm.
money, pay for the wedding. You good? I'm like, that is not finna work in 2023. So a lot of the people can't do that. And as MOT said, that was a completely different era. You got many different things going on. You have different idealism, more education, finding balance on how to do things, more social media stress. I find that social media in my business studies, I find social media often stresses a lot of different things out because people are more worried about image than they worry about self care in reality, which is one thing I have found is in my research that people care about how they look or perceived by other people. So oftentimes you see even content creators that have this image that they put up that's not even realistic because they are worried that somebody might call them out. Like, oh, if I ain't living this idea that y'all expect of me, I can't succeed. That's why even on the left, right, just content creators in general, always seem like they're the perfect people. I was saying this the other day. Even safe spaces, I'm a safe space to you. If you're a good person, you ain't got to tell people you're a good person. If I'm not homophobic, transphobic, if I'm not racist, if I'm not none of this, I don't have to tell you. You can come in and do it. But the thing is, most people want to pursue that. Want to even if they are or they aren't, they want to pursue that image. So a lot of marketing companies will tell you to say, "I'm a safe space." You can put in your bio, "I'm a safe space for this community," and what you're actually doing is advertising. So the one thing you are doing, you are advertising. A lot of people I've seen it from Ruby said, and the people I've seen, they are advertising that women are bad. So I'm putting that out there. That is my advertisement. That is what I'm putting. All the people that think that, come to me. Women can't do anything. Andrew Tate built an army, and all of them are just trying to eat off of it. He is one of the most Google men in the world. And all the people start going in and doing these things. And you hear about it with women too. Women say, I want this type of man or that. And then everybody like, oh, this is what women's supposed to want. This is what men's supposed to want. A lot of this, and a lot of people don't put in the perception that they are actually different, but you are consistently marketed to. Everything is marketed to. Your whole social media existence, you are marketed to from ads you read, from TikToks, from YouTube. If I show y'all how the algorithm works, it's literally, and I can't even do it. I'll be one. Sometimes I was like, should I just do it? But I can't do it because my integrity won't let me. But you can literally just switch the algorithm to what you stereotypes and groups of people that they will actually push it to because they know they agree to it. So when you see people with millions of subs because they say all women are bad, or when you see a bunch of people that say all men are bad, it is pushed to this group and it's constantly marketed to them. So everybody start to believe it. Because at first, a lot of these concepts wasn't seen in real life. Now, more of them are starting to be seen in real life. Like because normally people just talk on the internet. You go home and everybody be good, and you really don't talk about it. But more and more women are starting to even come out like men are horrible. Like, oh, so it's not just a marketing tool; it's become more of a real life thing. So in business and marketing, that's the first thing you learn. If I tell you enough times that something is great, you'll start to believe it. And for anybody that's a music fan, Lil Wayne said he's the greatest rapper of all time, and he just continually said it to people that started repeating. Michael Jordan is the most marketed man in history, and he's still considered the greatest player ever by a lot of people, even people that never seen him play.
Yes, but I mean, on one side though, see, the thing is that so when you think about well, marketing tactics in general, or just social influence, social manipulation, anything like that, it actually you do require kernels of truth, and you need frames of reference, right? And then there's a lot of confirmation bias that kind of goes in there, right? So in and of itself, right? Oh, Michael Jordan is the best player who ever lived, who ever played. Well, why do most people, even if you've never watched a basketball game, believe that? Well, we believe that because we have a million frames of reference of people saying exactly that thing. That's it. Like and the commercials. we've all seen the commercials and the shoes and the Nike and the right. Most of us grew up on that, right? So even if you don't know statistics about basketball at all, or anyone who came before or after that, right? You have a million frames of reference that suggests to you that Michael is the greatest, and your confirmation bias made you kind of continue remembering only that stuff and dismissing every time someone said he wasn't the greatest. And so generally, all you can remember is every time that people have said he's the number one greatest. So that's why you believe he's the greatest. Right? It's not just that you've been told again and again and again. That's really not what it is. You already have to. Someone can tell me something I already disagree with. You could tell me a million times, it's not going to make me agree with it more, right? I'm either going to find some reason why to explain it away, right? Some mode of social influence, explain it away, right? Or I'm going to give you a third reason why you're lying to yourself about that thing, right? Normally, again, confirmation bias. This is what people do. It's like the blue-haired feminism, right? The blue-haired lesbian or whatever, right? That's why Destiny dyed his hair blue, since we go with, but why? Because if you think of every person who's blue haired, was every single one of them a feminist? Maybe not, but can you remember any that aren't? Probably not, right? Because what's been shoved in your face lately are a bunch of blue haired feminists, right? So, okay, great. I guess all blue haired people are feminists then, right? Now, is that true? No. But confirmation bias is going to make you keep seeing and remembering more blue haired feminists and keep making you dismiss anyone who's not a feminist who has blue hair. So, in and of itself, it's kind of like that's part of it, right? But then you have other modes of influence, but again, all of them involve some level of truth, some kernel of truth, right? 1,000 people wouldn't be talking about Michael being literally the greatest player of all time if there wasn't a good reason for people to believe he's the greatest player of all time. That's why we have these mechanisms, these shortcuts in our brain, these types of bias and whatever, right, are built in. Because generally, if most people think something's true, it's probably because there's a good chance it is, right? Um, of course, now it's 10,000 years later from when we stopped evolving, and people have learned these things about human beings and learned how to manipulate them in a very concerted way to profit. But the point still stands that generally, without the manipulation of somebody, there's a reason why we believe these things, because they tend to be true.
I always wanted to figure out how to do the good part because doing politics, I found out how to make people look bad. That's my only goal. Look, he left his children behind. That man did not leave his children. Why are y'all trying to make me market that this man left his children behind and all that? It is, by the way, if y'all never, please don't get, politics is sick. Most people don't know that, but I was doing like campaign manager stuff. You want to make the other person look like the worst human being there. And that's probably another extreme that make people super intense now. Because all of a sudden, if you're a liberal or you're a conservative, you're the devil to the other side. It's not even like we just disagree. And I think that's happening with the black community too. And I think, and I'm, and that's why I ask: is it helpful or harmful? Because the red pill space is growing in a way, but are the parts of it that you want to grow growing the way you want to? So that's gonna be
Our
the last question.
yes. Hmm?
So that's the last question I want to ask because, like I said, Andrew Tate, the most viewed man on Google, like, but number three behind Johnny Depp and Amber Heard because that was way popular. But she was like number three or four Google man. I don't know if Will Smith was hidden, but and then you have like Fresh and Fit popular, and then you have like a bunch of other people who just said the wildest things. Is the part this is the ultimate question because we don't went through the science. Ultimately, is what's happening in the world right now with the red pill space, is it actually helpful or harmful to the outreach of society and the people that it's meant to help? What's
Uh,
growing, not the basic concept, Ruby. What's growing and what's getting out there? Because I
Yeah,
see
but
a
it's
lot
all
of
wrong. That's what I'm saying. Just because, right, an Andrew Tate, who in and of itself has been setting himself up for exactly the position he has now socially for a long time. People know about Big Brother, right? But do they know about the other two shows he was on? Because he was, or do they know about the show that his brother Tristan? I know he was on at least one that I actually saw because it was like that one of those island type shows. It wasn't called The Island, but it was the same concept. Tristan was on one of those. Andrew was on one of the thing where they traveled around the world and gave them like a limited amount of money and whatever, right? So I mean, again and again, you see that those brothers have been angling themselves for as long as they have been legal adult age, right? For the exact role that they have now, right? They worked very hard for it, and that's why. And they don't, and they do it unapologetically, right? And they let everybody know. It's the same thing that I said. Listen, I can't help but have respect for Obsidian. If Obsidian says, "Listen, I am going to milk y'all's pain over Black female effery until the last drop," so I hope it never goes away because I profit from it. And then everyone in the chat room keeps ding 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 ding. I ain't gonna hate on him for that. He told y'all what it was about. Andrew told y'all what he was about when he first got popular, and everyone was like, "Yay, let's keep throwing money at him." Well, then he was right. And you know what? Great. He benefited. Pearl, same thing. She said, "Oh, wait, hold on. Who's so this Kevin Samuels dude? Okay, so if I'm a woman and I go and I talk to that dude, and then I follow his advice, and then I do a video going how Kevin Samuels changed my life, I can get really popular. Okay, let me do that." She did. Listen, I have no hate for people who see the game and want to run with it. The problem is not that people are seeing the game and wanting to run with it, right? The problem is that there's a whole bunch of people who see the game, choose not to run with it. They're not getting as much recognition. You're right. They're not growing in leaps and bounds. They don't have a million subscribers like Pearl does or like Andrew does. But guess what? Flash in the pan. Remember, I told you, eventually these people exhaust their subscribers. And the only thing they can do is either change tax altogether or they're just going to disappear. And so then what you have to look at is, well, what's happening once those people exhaust their subscribers? Did they have an overall net positive or net negative impact on the space? And that's where I'm going to look at it and say, no, they had a net positive on the space. Because guess what? Even though the other channels under them are not growing at the rate that they are, they're still growing. So once they've exhausted all their listeners, right? When people give up on them, when they get caught being, lying scammers and people are tired of them or whatever it is, right? Guess what? All those channels that grew up under them are still grown. They still got bigger. They went from only having 1,000 subscribers to having 300,000. Did they get to 1,000,000? No. But did they get over 50,000? Yeah. And was that something that was possible before people started going first Kevin Samuels, first Tommy, then Kevin Samuels, right now Pearl? Was it possible for these people to grow to that level if no one had gone mainstream first? No, right? The reason why all of these things, all these terminologies are literally terms that everyone uses now, including in Canada, is because of Kevin Samuels. And like in my case, I remember this girl was doing my hair, and like I was just doing something, and she's like, "Oh, you do YouTube? Oh, okay. Do you know who Kevin Samuels is?" And I was like, "Why do you know who Kevin Samuels is?" That's all I could think, because I'm in Canada, right? Like, why would she know? Well, her boss is that Stormy Daniels chick. Who? So now I go look, it was a big, huge one that went viral. The point is, though, right, is that it was Kevin Samuels that went viral and that went into everyone's living rooms for I don't know what reason. But the point is now everyone knows his message, right? Now, everyone who is in this space has grown because of him going viral, right? And that allowed more people to start getting massively huge, including including Andrew Tate, including Pearl, including a lot of people who, whether I like them or not, it comes down to net negative or net positive. It is a net positive because guess what? They're now bringing 1,000,000 people. That's millions of people that weren't here that are here now. There's millions of people who are not listening to this message, not looking for this message, not looking for these content creators, who are now looking for these content creators and who are now looking for this area, right? So at the end of the day, it's a net positive. And even though I honestly do, I wish I could save some of these young bucks from coming up believing some of this nonsense. I really do. I really do. Right? Just like I really want to save some of these young women from participating in the next Hot Girl Summer and Cucumber Challenge, thinking that she's being, she's been sexually repressed all her life until she started all these 304 ways, and now she's being sexually magnified and gratified and freed, even though it's all bull, right? I want to save her too, right? I wish I could save people from the bull, but you can't, right? So all you can do is be there as like the safety net, or as another voice, another message, so that way when they get burned over here, there's still somewhere for them to fall, other than the whole other way that's like terrible, right? Like I would still rather a lot of these guys find their way in here, because they were already angry. It's not like they weren't angry. It's not like they weren't raging. It's not like they weren't already hating women. It was not like none of that was happening. It was all happening already. It was all happening. So they just all now gathered together, right? And now they're in a space where there's outlets, and there's places for them to go when they're done raging, and there's places to go to help them get over the rage, and there's places to go to help them self-actualize and help them fix their, like, other than like all of the manipulation stuff, right? There's actually positive places for them to go. So if it took a fresh and fit to bring them in, at least they're here now. And that means that they're far more likely to get access to someone who can actually help them.
That is true. It is. It's the trickle down effect. If you know politics, the trickle down on it. Now the problem with that is it don't always work the way you think it will. Because, like, for instance, the trickle down effect is if you give billionaires more tax, they'll give it to the other people. But sometimes they hoard it and it can go bad. So I'm waiting to see. Like I said, I'm new to this, and I'm not really even in it. I just want to have this conversation because Ruby know what she's talking about. So I want to give Ruby the opportunity to show us, and I got it to stream. That's what everybody seemed to be wanting.
I can't even believe it. But no, I didn't stream because it happened by accident. Do you see what I'm saying? So it doesn't count. We're just
Yeah,
I've never live streamed ever. I think people thought when they would see my videos, they would think that I did live stream. I never live streamed on my channel ever. I just did pre-records and then I dropped them on my channel. But I never actually live stream on my, because I would never live by myself. I would just never do it. It's not my thing. I need someone to play off of, to tell them they're wrong and here's why I'm right and you're wrong. Like I'm really good at that. So
we agree way too much today.
I know. And you still didn't tell me why I need to leave this space. And I don't think you proved it. And I don't think anyone in the chat would say that you proved that I should leave the
It
space.
wasn't really. It wasn't really about leaving this. It was just if you think it's helpful or harmful. I just want to set it up to get you excited. Like I said, I was just doing. I just wanted to interview you because I thought you was interesting. Like Ruby's interesting. She knows what she's talking about. She's smart. She's not like a lot of these dumb people I listen to. So I think it's interesting. And then we had a happy accident where you actually streamed. So
Yeah, I didn't mean to do that. But hey, a lot of ladies rolled through, right? Carolyn, Cynical One, Vonda, Shar. Like there's a lot of women that rolled through, which in and of itself, were like, that was cool, because that tells me, and it's a big thing people don't even realize. BMT, listen, you need to, what is up? Red pill is dangerous, and Ruby won't admit it. Red pill is not dangerous. Dangerous people are dangerous, right? That would be like, again, fine. If red pill is dangerous, BMT, so are guns. Oh, I bet you won't admit to that, though, will you? Because no, guns aren't dangerous.
you would have left this argument, BMT. You would a progressive argument.
No, because, well, no, and honestly, I've already done a pre-record. I just have to make a second pre-record so I can drop the first one. Because in the first one, it says, I promise I won't drop this until I've made a second one. But it's reviewing a mother. And basically, long story short, a gun is involved in the story. And, yeah, we're all going to cry for the mom and what happened to her and whatever. But, I'm pausing to be like, this woman raised this child, right? He didn't raise himself. So what happened here in this scenario is a problem. And the easy access that children have to guns in America is also a very big problem. And I'm going to talk about it when I drop that video. But yeah, I mean, it is a problem, right? We have a lot of problems. Like, and I mean, okay, America has more problems than we do. But no, I'm kidding. But, like, we have a lot of problems. We do absolutely have a lot of problems. I think that all we can do, me going and standing into a void by myself and starting my own movement, is going to do what? What does that do? You find people who are like-minded, right? You band together, you try your best not to create more echo chambers, you try your best to invite as much discussion from a variety of sources as possible so you can all grow and learn and exchange ideas and support one another together, right? And that is the best that you can really do. Going and standing by yourself and screaming into a void of one is not, it's not going to get you anywhere. It's just really not.
Listen, all right, I'm finna put down this book, and we gonna everybody finna have this argument again. I'm gonna get BMT out of this space so his mental can be better, and I'm gonna convince Ruby to start a home movie.
BMT needs to be
BMT,
out of this space. I will support that argument. He doesn't.
BMT out here at 4 o'clock in the morning yelling about somebody outside in the parking lot. I'm like, bro, what? Shout out to BMT though. That was awesome, man. Shout out to him. We gotta do more content together. And remember what I said at the beginning. Remember, we are more than just trauma. So these are the African American inventors. All these amazing people created the super soaker, the broom, the iron, um, all these different things that we made. It's amazing. I want to thank Ruby for being here. Uh, I want to thank BMT. Shout out to him for setting this up because I think this was a needed conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it was a great conversation. Even though like I said, I was just the host. I was just let Ruby shine. That's what my whole goal was. And maybe next time we'll have an actual debate when we pick a topic and I actually debate it. But right now I'm too focused on this book and getting. As a matter of fact, I got another book I'm reading, but it's a bunch of stuff. I'm 3-time authors coming soon, so let's do that. So shout out to that. All the merch and all that stuff is in the link tree below. If you want to buy any of the merch from my company overall 99 Media, it's all of it below. We do podcasts, mostly fun. I don't really talk about these topics because I find them a lot of time not helpful. So if you're interested in TV shows, I don't know how many people are interested in P Valley or what's the other show? Bel Air, any show, Marvel shows. I talk about that stuff. I tend not to do serious topics as much as I got out of politics, and I'm focused on the book, and I got to focus and do research, and I don't feel like doing it. So I just rather have a great conversation with amazing people. So thank Ruby for being here. Ruby, anything you want to tell the audience? Follow Classic Ruby, by the way. The ad is literally in the description.
Mm-hmm. About what? I told you I'm not good. This is why I don't stream by myself. Because you say, "What do you want to say, Ruby?" I have nothing to say. Like I'm really good at responding to things. I'm not as good at like knowing
Plug,
what I'm supposed to say.
plug, Ruby.
Oh,
Plug, at Classic Ruby.
okay. Well, you can go to my website, classicruby.com. You can always go to my channel. So that's like youtube.com/ at classicruby. And there are my playlists. So, you heard me talk about my show with Shar. That is on there in a playlist. Our news show is also on there in a playlist. My current show with Melody, Sweet Melody Media, which is on Tuesdays and Sundays. That the playlist is there as well as a connection to her channel if you want to click and sub. So that way, it's easier for you to see the channel. As are my various live streams that I've done with other people like BMT and whatever. I kind of try to make sure that there's always like a playlist so you can go and at least visit and hear that. So there's that, and I guess you can, if you subscribe to me, then you will see when I do something new because I try to put it in my community tab. Apparently, I didn't do that today. I just decided to live stream by accident on this restream thing. It's very confusing. I'm not good at new technology, but my bad.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
they love it. They are excited. Chat was happy to see you live stream.
yeah, no, it's just they were just actually very surprised because like I just don't. It's just not my. I go through. I live stream everywhere else. Like I've just never. I did like 13 videos in total ever since, but I started my channel like 2017, and I did most of my videos in that first month or so, or 2 months, and then I just never. I just basically stopped, and I mostly just go to other people's channels and speak like this. So
Yeah, I saw Melody actually say you should do more on your channel. So look at that. We started already.
yeah, don't encourage her. That's what she would
So y'all,
like.
BMT, you said tell them how the FBI, RedPill has the FBI watching how dangerous Ruby being so unfair.
No, actually, here's the thing, right? So it's not even red pill; it's Manosphere. But here's the thing: before the Manosphere was on the FBI watch list, what was on the FBI watch list? Black what? Oh, oh wait, hold on. So Black Pride? Black Pride was on the FBI watch list. It was. It was on the FBI watch list. You could not do anything revolving around being proud of blackness and you not be on the FBI watch list for terrorism. So let us not pretend that that FBI watch list means anything more than what it means. Okay, let's just say that. Yeah.
By
No,
the way,
because
get Ruby, gain
Black
Ruby like a.
identity, Black identity extremists. That's what they called it. Black identity extremists. Where is that? Oh, am I? Look it up. Look it up. Okay, red pill extremists. Like again, what is that? What does that mean? Red pill extremists, right? Like first of all, let's be real. It's not red pill extremists that do anything wrong. It's incel extremists that do something wrong. I mean, if we're gonna point fingers somewhere, then we should point fingers at the correct subsector. It's not red pill because in and of itself, red pill doesn't allow for extremism. So anyone who's pretending that red pill is allowing for extremism in and of itself is lying to themselves or to others because red pill is an ideology. It's not even like it doesn't. It just allows for truth. That's it. That's all it really allows for is for the objective truth and objective facts. It doesn't allow for you to run around and lie to yourself or let the society lie to you about the way things are, the way things should be, or it just tells you what things are. This is what it is, and that's it. That's all that it really is. So at the end of the day, if you are an extremist, and it probably has nothing to do with red pill, to be honest with you, right? But again, people are hide behind all kinds of masks and flags and whatever to, so they can be up in here. They don't want to be alone, right? While they're being extremists. So they're going to pretend they're something like red pill when they're not really, because they don't even really understand what the ideology is, right? So, yeah.
Shout out to BMT. Get Ruby 100 subs and 100 likes. Let's go, and I'll host a moderation between her and BMC. Let's do it. Get it
I
done.
already have 100 subs. I have
I'm
more
talking
than
about
100.
100 more this episode. Let's
Oh,
see.
100 more. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let's get me up to one. Wait, hold on. 1,500. If I get up to 1,500, there you go. Because I think it's a
Let's,
1.47. So
let's go.
1,500.
1,500. I'll host her and BMT can have this amazing argument about half the stuff I think Ruby even disagree with, which is interesting because I was expecting her to say most of these. As
No,
you did.
because this. Listen, I love BMT though. So there you go. We're gonna leave it there.
BMT, my guy. We did talk about a lot. We discussed a lot. Thank Ruby for coming here again. I appreciate everybody for watching. Zel-Theory, we'll probably do more. I will do why men are afraid to approach women with 3 other people, with Hollywood and a bunch of Aisha and more people. So we're gonna have that discussion. Me and BMT probably gonna do something before the year end. Might do it for charity or something. I'm gonna try to get BMT to do something. He won't, and I don't think he will yell. So that's gonna be good. And we're gonna have a good time. So we're gonna have a good month. I'm finna finish up this book project, and it's gonna be an amazing time. So I appreciate everybody for watching. Uh,
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. It's an amazing conversation. I learned a lot. I also see how you think about things, and I learned a lot. So shout out to you, shout out to BMT and everybody. I appreciate y'all, and follow Classic Ruby. Y'all see the ad and I follow her. Sub, all that stuff. And we're out. I appreciate y'all.
Cheers, y'all.